The Counsel of Marriage of an Anonymous Ancient Philosopher, or Concerning the Mass of Sun and Moon, in 3 books. Truly golden and incomparable. Translated from the Arabic into the Latin tongue. Here beginneth the first book of the Counsel of Marriage, concerning the Mass of Sun and Moon, with its compendiums. No greater gift of wisdom is read to have flowed forth from the divine bounty. Wherefore, Hamuel, commend it to memory, adorn the conscience, magnify knowledge. For he that despiseth knowledge, God most high and glorious despiseth him. But the wise and chosen servants of God, each one after another, inherited this wisdom unto themselves by the grace and gift of God, whose name be everywhere blessed. They would make perpetual remembrance for posterity, and of this wrote their books, veiled in typical and tropic expressions. For unless they had described this wisdom to succeeding ages, it had been given over to forgetfulness and perished, even as their masters died. For books are vessels of memory, and the perpetual fame of the wise. Yet, lest this wisdom and gift of the Most High God, graciously bestowed upon the microcosm, should tend unto destruction, the philosophers and prophets, masters of the sciences, willed, with God's ordinance, that the series of this wisdom should be deposited in writings, but veiled, for many causes. The first is in the elder Hamuel, that they might attribute it to the glorious Lord, that he should reveal it unto whom he would, and withhold it from whom he would. For, as Maureen said unto King Khaled, O good king, thou oughtest to know, that this magistery is nothing else but the secret of secrets, and the mystery of the Most High and great God. For he himself committed this magistery to his prophets, whose souls he hath placed in his paradise. And if the wise men who were after them had not found their dispositions concerning the quality of the vessel wherein they wrought, never could they have attained unto the perfection of this magistery. And in the same book it is afterward said elsewhere, Know thou, that the intent of every man who inquireth into this pure and divine science ought to reckon it nothing else but the gift of the Most High and great God, who commendeth it to his servants, whose name be blessed. The second cause is in the book of Lights of Rhesus. After he had taught many things concerning the disposition of the art, he saith, Although all things have been clearly set forth, yet I judge it meet that the lights be wrapped under the guise of enigma. For if I should unfold all things as they are, there would remain no place for prudence, the foolish would be made equal with the wise, nor under the circle of the sun or moon would any mortal, straitened by poverty, abandon his middle labors. The third cause of this revelation is read, lest occasion be given unto the wicked and perverse. Therefore this science is hidden in obscure words, though it ought not to be concealed from the worthy. A certain one of the philosophers, fearing the Lord, said continually, Not so sublime nor so precious did we esteem this magistery. Nay rather, they were minded to write their work plain and manifest. But they trembled to do so, lest it should destroy the world, and the work of tilling and sowing plants should perish. Therefore not without cause wrote they their books veiled, nor compiled them confusedly. The fourth cause of obscurity is read at the end of the Tubba Philosophorum, where it is said, Unless the names were multiplied in this art of ours, boys would deride our wisdom. The fifth cause is that of the philosopher of the world in the Tubba, for if the vulgar sellers knew this mine, they would not sell it at a cheap price. And if kings knew it, they would not suffer it to come unto the poor. The first part of this book. The sun, as Algazel saith, is the eye of the world, the splendor of the firmament, the beauty of heaven, the traveler of the spheres, the fountain of all heat, the ruler of the planets, the divider of the hours, the grace and honor of God. The moon, as Aridem, is the purple of heaven, the follower of the sun, the solace of navigation, the bountiful nurse of dew, the sign of storms, the mistress of moisture. The sun is so called, as shining above all, the moon, as shining with borrowed light, for she shineth not of herself, but all her brightness she borroweth from the sun. Hermes saith, The sun is also the lord of bodies and of stones, and is more noble than they, for he is their king and their abundance. The earth corrupteth him not, nor water, nor fire, he is not diminished in the fire, but the fire rectifieth him and moisteneth him, nor do corrupting sulfurs consume him, for his nature is equal, clear, and rightly tempered. For this cause the wise have exalted him and magnified him, and in him have placed the composition of the great elixir of the stone, for he is a substance equal, permanent, and fixed in the length of eternity. This elixir indeed is of the complexion of the substance of gold, for it is hot and moist, and this elixir is in bodies as the sun and the stars. Wherefore the sun is king of the stars and their light, and by him are fulfilled the things of the earth, of plants, fruits, and minerals. For he retaineth every body, and is retained of them. He is the ferment of the two elixirs, the white and the red, and they are not rectified save by him, nor completed by any other, as dough is not perfected save by leaven. And this leaven is in the elixir as the rennet in milk, and as musk in a sweet odor. The moon, truly, the bride of the sun, is of a heavenly color, near to the complexion of the sun, and is the mistress of moisture, from whom all things are generated by the help of the sun. Mercury again is the lord of metals, who discovereth gold and silver and gems, wishing to lie hidden in the clay for the merchants. Mercury is the part of the matter of all metals, and is of a nature earthy, subtle, moist, airy, inconstant, vehement, and most excellently mixed universally, only inclining toward watery humidity, whence, by reason of its moistening humour, it floweth in cold, seeking a strange path, and fleeth in fire. By reason of its airy humidity and vehement complexion, it is not burnt, but wholly sublimed. For the airy humidity, moved by the fire, carrieth with it its subtle dryness entirely, so that it leaveth behind it no dregs. And by reason of its dryness it floweth in globes, and doth not moisten what it toucheth, nor cleaveth thereto, by reason of its most vehement complexion. And by the solidity of its dense parts, being deprived of rarity, it is weighty, and upon it swim stones and all metals, save gold, which seeketh the bottom. From this thou mayest draw the greatest secret, namely, a nature, symbol, and great similitude. And it is to be known, that the sun and moon and Mercury are digested by a temperate heat, but Mars and Venus by a fiery heat, exceeding temperance unto burning, and this heat is called contrary. But by the heat molendacy the defective resteth, and in part thereof are Jupiter and Saturn digested. Know also that pure Mercury, that is, most excellently tempered, is found in the sun and moon, and is seen to dissolve itself, although it be matter, or rather a part of the matter, of all others. And when it is brought by nature's benefit unto its own species, by reason of its most excellent complexion, it can no more be corrupted, but other corruptible metals must be generated from it. And it abideth in process, so long as it is in becoming, not in being, namely in digestion, optesy and molendacy. By these, and through these, the wise prepared their stone from the best or they could find. Whence Geber, who was ignorant of the first principles of nature, is far removed from our art, because he hath not the true root on which to found his intention. But he that hath known the principles of nature, and the causes and essences, yet hath not attained the true end and perfection of this most hidden art, he hath nevertheless an easier access, and is little removed from the entrance of the art. He who hath known all the principles and causes of minerals and their manner of generation, which consist in the intention of nature, is scarcely far from the complement of the work, without which our science cannot be perfected. The stone of the philosophers is a king descending from heaven, whose mountains are of silver, and whose streams are golden, and the land of the stone, and precious gems. Behold, all the kinds of the art are now enumerated. The Constant One saith, Know, my son, that the work of the philosophers and of the prophets is in nothing but quicksilver. For they, pondering on all things, and arriving at the knowledge of quicksilver, determined that they should take quicksilver, whereby they work. Therefore, in natures and in accidents, which alter all things, they have repeated their thought and their mixture. When therefore their intention rested upon their stone, and they knew that from this stone proceedeth quicksilver, which some of them desired exceedingly to hide, they named it by all names, and likened it unto every work and thing. Some indeed by only one name, which is the stone. The water, truly, that is drawn from it, or from her, or from him, they called quicksilver. And this they divided into two parts, which it was needful they should call by two names. Some called them heaven and earth, some male and female, some stone and water, some spirit and body, some egg and cock, some man and magnesia, some vile and precious, and so forth, even unto dung, which scarcely may be attained, which men and boys tread under foot in the streets and ways, that is, the moist thing, whose exposition shall appear in what followeth. Whence raises in the light of lights, some wise men said it consisteth in one thing only, namely in the moist, some in two, male and female, some in three, spirit, soul, and body, that is, water, earth, and tincture, some in four, namely the elements. The wise, nevertheless, do say that the 5 elements spring forth from one root, namely the philosophical air, to wit, the 4 elements, hot, cold, moist, and dry, and the 5th essence, which is neither hot, nor cold, nor moist, nor dry, without admixture of any other kind. For it dissolveth itself and coaguleth itself, it mocketh itself white and is adorned with redness, it mocketh itself yellow and black. Moreover, it despiseth itself, that is, it becometh as the pledge of wine, for nature rejoiceth in nature because of likeness, that is, the nearness of nature between them. And from itself it conceiveth, for one is the kind of all those species, namely male and female, and the spirit of the moon. And nature overcometh nature, and nature conteneth nature, until it hasten the end of the work. Adomity, know ye, that there is but one thing, which hath father and mother, and its father and mother are found therein and agree, nor can it differ in aught from its father and mother. Hermes, its father is the sun, its mother truly the moon. And the constant one, its mother is a virgin, and the father knew her not carnally, therefore is the generation chaste. And Hermes again saith, it behoveth the thing to be of near kin by nature. And forthwith he addeth, but moisture is of the dominion of the sun. And Dantonus saith, that everything of this art is not, save by God and with him, for every tincture proceedeth from its like. And Arctitenes likewise mocketh mention, that 3 substances suffice for the whole magistery, namely, the white smoke, that is, the quinta vis, that is, the heavenly water, and the green lion, that is, the brass of Hermes, and the fetid water, which is the mother of all things, from which, and by which, and with which, they prepare it in the beginning and in the end. These 3 species therefore, and their preparations, reveal thou to no man. But fools are wont to seek this magistery in every other thing, and in seeking they go astray, for they come not to its perfection, until sun and moon be reduced into one body, which never shall be, save God willeth it. And Aristotle, in his epistle to Alexander, saith, that there are 2 principal stones of this art, the white and the red, of marvelous nature. The white, at the setting of the sun, beginneth to appear upon the face of the waters, hiding itself until midnight, and afterward sinketh into the deep. But the red, contrariwise, worketh, for it beginneth to ascend upon the waters at the rising of the sun until midday, and afterwards descendeth into the deep. And in another epistle he saith, the instrumental water in the art is understood to be twofold, whereof the one is appointed to the sun, the other to the moon. And now hath he laid open the celestial secret. And Khalid, in these 2 stones which I have designated is the perfection unfolded of the 4 natures, the one is the man, that is, the sun, the other is the woman, that is, the moon. And Hamuel commenteth, this is the noble magnesia, commended of all the philosophers, which under many names is one thing, and they are 2 divine waters, the lunar and the solar, neither of which worketh without the other. And Hermes saith, that the stone is the whole secret, and the life of everything, and every man hath need thereof. And this is the water which is in the seed of wheat, and in the olive oil, and in the gum of peaches, and in the fruits of all trees diverse, and the beginning of man's generation is of it, and it is the living thing which dieth not so long as the world endureth, for it is the head of the world, that is, the humor. Rhasis, in the Book of Lights, deemeth it superfluous to name and designate it, for it never departeth from thee, for if thou deest, it dieth with thee, and if thou perish, with it thou goest down to death. And in the same book, of the art of minerals, he thus speaketh, though with much diffuseness, oil receiving color, that is, solar splendor, is sulfur itself, even so likewise is brass. Therefore Plato saith, every quicksilver is sulfur, but not conversely, and every gold is brass, but not every brass is gold. Text, but every oil is likened unto the sun and unto gold. Therefore Hermes, fatness is of the dominion of the sun, and moisture of the dominion of the moon, for all cold oil is moisture, and all hot oil is fatness. Text, and in respect of death in the second degree, from it is oil pressed, but by reason of the dryness of the earth, after all the vapor of the air is drawn forth into water like unto itself. It is also called the work of death because of rust. Whence Theophilus, I tell you, iron becometh not rusty save by that water, and it is that which tinctured the plates. And Danellus, but I say unto you, take iron, make plates thereof, afterward sprinkle them with venom, and set them in a vessel whose mouth is well closed, and see. And by reason of the ingress appearing in the first and second work it is called Mars. Whence Florius, know that the first blackness is of the nature of Mars, and from that blackness is born the redness which overflooded the blackness, and ordained peace fleeing and not fleeing, for Mars is the god of war. Text, that which is 6, that is, blackness and tincture, is emitted, it is called the perpetual and incorruptible water, the dregs themselves, when they blacken, take unto themselves the name of magnesia. Gloss in the tuba, wash until the blackness go forth, which some have called coins. And Gradanon saith, when the things of our art are once ground and cooked, ye shall find blackness, and that is the lead of the wise, of which they said, our coins are black. Text, the white dregs are called white lead, that is, tin. This is ascribed to Mercury, and is the oil, which, being prepared with more worthy administration, they call viscous gold and atrament, and red gum, and red orpiment hath taken to itself the name, because it is the fatness of gold and its whole tincture. Text. Nature itself, the 5th, is that of Venus among the philosophers, which is neither hot nor cold, neither moist nor dry, but a mean. The same is also called the yellow or epigment, and iris, for its manifold colors. For it is the stone from which proceedeth every color, it is the perpetual water, white indeed when first it appeareth in candor, then also the white of an egg, and vinegar, sea water, almadzari, and other such names attributed unto it. From this water, and from this body, quicksilver is transformed, and it is dried, turning itself to red. Thus this oil of the hidden and secret is in the white of quicksilver, which, as hath been said, confirmeth the beginning and root of the whole work. And when it shall be perfected, being set upon tin, or lead, or brass, it converteth them into the best species of silver. The same moreover may afterwards be brought forth from the tincture of gold. And finally, becoming red, the oil, namely sulfur, with the quicksilver, which hath its being from the white body, must be espoused. From the water of brass cometh the brightness and clarity of quicksilver, which mocketh white, and the same is red, for after whiteness it becometh red. This oil therefore and quicksilver, brought into one, constitute one thing, whence the ancient and common proverb saith, and it is a saying of the wise, the ruddy servant taketh a white wife, and by the conception of the woman being with child, she bringeth forth a son, who surpasseth all his progenitors, that is, the sun and the moon. When therefore quicksilver proceedeth from the white body, it is joined to the oil, that is, sulfur. Gloss. Quicksilver is joined with oil, that is, the solar fatness, which is the male, and that is the female. Text. Moreover, quicksilver must by another name be designated. For those bodies white and red, which are joined or mingled, we call altogether the 4 bodies. Thus then, from quicksilver in the body of the magnesia, being dissolved by the body of the white and the red, they know it to be congealed. Hermes also, in the book of the dukedom, which is one of the 7, saith, confidence consisteth in 2 things, unto which a 3rd is added, and this is the same saying as before. And in another place he saith, I have seen 3 faces, that is, spirits, born of one father, that is, of one lineage, for of them is one kind, one of which is in fire, another in air, the 3rd in water. Wherefore Hamuel, the commentator of the elder, saith, it is the threefold water of life, for it is one, in which are air, fire, and water, in which is the soul arisen, which they call gold, and call it divine water. Text. These faces, which their father joined, the father, that is, the one genus, because they are homogeneous, therefore they are symbols, and one seeth the three natures joined, because they rejoice in one another. Then with one mouth they spake, namely, those three natures joined in water, saying, they seek the four natures of the elements, namely in the earth, for in the dead body are four, hot, moist, cold, and dry, and these are united by that water which worketh all things, namely, it quickeneth, it killeth by calcining, it dissolveth the rest, and coaguleth itself with the earth. Text. These four natures the ants, that is, the blackness in the womb of the earth of the philosopher's brass, first brought forth into water, which is neither hot, nor moist, nor cold, nor dry, but a mean of all, incorruptible, joining fixed tinctures. And Lucas the philosopher, burn them, that is, burn the silver, and burn the gold. For it is nothing else but light that is burned, because to burn is to make white, that is, by the first and second whitening. And to make red is to give life, which is the last of the work. And he further added, the definition of this art is the liquefaction of the body, that is, the dissolving into water, and the division of the soul from the body, and again the reuniting of the soul unto its pure body. For our brass hath a soul and a body, like unto a man. It behoveth therefore that the body be divided, and the soul separated from it, so that it be not the body that penetrateth, but the soul, that is, the tincture, in water, which is subtle and tinging the body itself, that is, it penetrateth the dead earth, and thus body and soul are in nature. And he added a fair and obscure riddle, that the splendor of Saturn, that is, the blackness solar, which is his spirit and tincture, when it ascendeth into the air, that is, when it is resolved into aerial vapor in its water whence it came, appeareth not at first save darksome, and then is born the offspring of the philosophers. Text. Mercury, that is, distilling as though dropping the good, meeteth with the solar ray, that is, the splendor of the sun, that light may be joined to light, and whiteness come forth after the utmost blackness. Text. And quicksilver, that is, the living water, by virtue of its fiery power, that is, solar, which is more potent than fire, quickeneth the dead body, that is, it maketh it red and perfect, that is, it fixeth it. Moreover, concerning this stone unequal, Cadus in the Taba saith, if thou wilt prove our coin unto perfection, that is, brass, see whether it be brass impalpable, that is, clean and purged from blackness, namely oil, which thou shalt behold floating idly above, and gathered, and turned into white water. If such it be found, it is apt, otherwise it tinkteth not. Rhesus, the spirit hath entrance into bodies when they lie clean and purged beneath. And this is the chief root of this work. It followeth, and know thou, if thou shalt take aught else besides our brass and our water, and water it in our water, it profiteth nothing. But if thou shalt water our brass with our water, ye shall find the truth. And he addeth, by our brass and our permanent water the philosophers signified this stone, which also they commanded to be cooked with gentle fire. And verily two things are our coined stone, namely brass and water, and they are that of which the wise have said that nature rejoiceth in nature, for the nearness of nature in those two, namely the male and the female, and our water, which is of the same nature, namely the water of those two, the sun and the moon. Between them is the greatest affinity, which, unless it were, they would not so soon be converted into one. And Cadus in the Taba, that nothing proceedeth from man save man, nor from bird save bird. And nature is amended only by nature. From it, and not from another, is the art cultivated. Unless thou take it, and water it, thou doest not well. Join therefore the male, that is, the son of his sister, that is, the fragrant moon, that is, by odor or fumous evaporation, and they shall beget unto you the art. And join not unto them alien powder, nor aught else beside their own water. And he addeth, O how precious and marvelous is the nature of this red servant, that is, of Mercury made red, for without him the regimen of the work cannot stand. And Lazon saith, that nature is both male and female, and the Indians have called it magnesia, for therein lieth the greatest secret. And Aspharicus, he who will attain the truth, let him take the humor of the sun and the spirit of the moon, for sulfur is contained by sulfur, and moisture by moisture. And arcelebras, sulfur by sulfur, that is, quicksilver with brass. For all quicksilver is sulfur, but both the sulfurs are incorruptible, and moisture by moisture, that is, mercury by the moisture of brass. And saith, mind nothing else save this, how there are two quicksilvers, namely, the fixed in brass, and the volatile fleeing in mercury. And the envious one saith, this sulfur, that is, quicksilver, is wont to flee, and is sublimed as vapor. It must be held therefore by another quicksilver of its own kind, namely of brass, and its flight restrained. For if it be not mingled with white or red sulfur of its kind, that is, with gold or silver, it will the more readily flee. Join therefore quicksilver to quicksilver of its own kind, and having done so, ye possess the greatest secret. And Parmenides, leave aside waters and broths, bodies and stones, but mind the coins. Take brass for the beginning, and tin for liquefaction, that is, make tablets, that is, leaves of gold, and for beginning, take it, that is, blacken it with mercury and mingle it, and take tin for liquefaction, that is, when ye see it all white, then is it liquefied, that is, turned into water. The same Parmenides addeth, leave aside superfluous discourses, and take quicksilver, that is, compounded water, and congeal it in the body of magnesia, that is, in the earth of the divine water, and it shall become white and red, that is, gold and silver. And it is called the stone of magnesia, because, according to Pythagoras, it is a thing that followeth its companion, as the magnet doth iron. For as is the affinity of the magnet with iron, so is the conformation of water with earth. And as the soul rejoiceth with the body, so doth nature rejoice with nature like unto itself. And ALCHEMY saith, I tell you truly, there is no tincture of Venus in our brass. Waste not therefore your money in vain, bringing sorrow to your hearts and souls. And Hermes saith, that azoth, that is, quicksilver, and the fire of putrefaction, the fire of the wise, do wash and cleanse Latin, that is, brass, and utterly take away its darkness from it. Which if thou rightly orderest the fire, azoth and fire in this disposition suffice thee. Wherefore the destroyer saith, whiten Latin, that is, brass, which cannot be whitened save it be dissolved in azoth, and rend your books lest your hearts be rent. And Dantonus saith, though Latin at the first be red, yet is it unprofitable, but if after redness it be changed into white, it availeth nothing. And Hermes, first is blackness, and afterwards with salt and anaton, that is, fire and mercury, followeth whiteness. And first it was red, and at last white. The superadded blackness shall altogether be taken away, and then it is turned into red, most bright and beautiful. And Marion said, when our Latin, that is, our brass, is burned with acid brie, that is, with our moist, white, incombustible sulfur, and the moisture of azoth is poured upon it, so that its fervor, that is, its hot fatness, be taken away, then all darkness and blackness shall be removed from it. For moisture in the fire bringeth forth blackness, which moisture being digested, whiteness followeth, so it is in this matter. And when it is converted into most pure gold, that is, into golden color in effect, not in appearance, for gold is viscous and white in sight, therefore not in vain have I added testimonies concerning the ore of the art from divers places. For Morinus saith, I tell thee, in species and in weight expend thou nothing, and chiefly in the making of gold. For whoso in this magistery shall seek aught else than this stone, is like a man striving to ascend by ladders and steps, who, when he cannot, falleth prone upon his face to the earth. And afterwards he saith, that in this stone are the four elements, and it is likened unto the world and the composition of the world. Nor in the world is any other stone found that may be likened unto it in effect or in nature. Whosoever therefore shall seek another stone beside this in the magistery, all his works shall be in vain. Hamuel, already the wise have shown unto thee plainly the manner by the philosophy of vain things, whereby thou hast gained much and redeemed thy money, that it be not spent in vain. And this is a great profit if thou understandest it. Therefore, that this chapter may be more fully manifest, the figures of the ores and their compositions, with the distinction of the double work, which the elder in his house in his image described, a fairer knowledge, though delivered more obscurely, I will briefly expound. The elder saith, I entered into a certain subterranean house, which is the house of treasures. And I beheld set in order 9 images of eagles, having their wings outstretched as though they would fly, their feet extended and opened, and in the foot of one eagle was the likeness of a great bow, such as is oftentimes bent for shooting arrows. And on the right and left sides of the house there were images of men, as perfect as might be, standing clothed in divers kinds and colors, their hands stretched toward the inner chamber, inclining toward a certain statue within the house. And in the innermost part of the chamber there was the image of a wise man, who held in his hands upon his knees a tablet of marble, of the length of 1 arm and the breadth of 1 palm. And the fingers of his hands were bent over it, and his forefingers, as if he signified one should look upon it, even as in an open book it seemed to every beholder. And that tablet had columns like unto a book, and was divided down the midst, and on the side where the wise man sat were images of divers things and barbarous letters. And in the first half of the tablet were 5 in the lower part thereof. The first sphere of 2 birds, their breasts bowed toward one another, one of them with wings cut off, namely the male, the other above it, winged, namely the female. And each held with its beak the tail of the other, as though flying one would fain fly with the other, and the other would hold back the flyer. These 2 birds were of one kind, in one sphere. Then another sphere, the third, the full moon. Above, in the first tablet, were 2 beside the head of the flyer, the image of the crescent moon, and on the other side the moon in a sphere. In the other half of the said tablet, the second, there were likewise 3 above and 2 beneath. Above, the sun with 2 rays, which is the double sun, and the image of 2 in 1, and on the other side, the image of the sun with 1 ray, which is the simple sun, as an image of glass in wine. And the rays descended compassing a black earth, parted below into 3. The third part thereof had the crescent moon, the inner part white without blackness, and a black sphere encircled it. And these are 2, namely the earth of 2 natures, the black sphere and the moon which it compassed. And above were 3, namely the sun with 2 rays, and the sun simple with 1 ray. And these are in all 10, according to the number of the 9 eagles and the black earth, *. Gloss. This house of treasures is the vessel of the art, hanging in the clay of the dunghill, of which more shall be said at large. The 9 eagles are the 9 parts of vinegar, or of our sea, for as the feathers of the eagle receive gold when it is gilded, so no other thing can dissolve the sun, save our eagle, nor is there any other water but this golden. Whereof Marian saith, nothing can take from Leighton his darkness or his odor, save Azoth, which is as it were his regimen, first, when it is boiled, for it tincteth him and mocketh him white, and again Leighton ruleth Azoth, for he mocketh him red. Another philosopher also saith, and Azoth cannot substantially take away from Leighton his color, nor change it, save only as to appearance, but Leighton from Azoth taketh away his whiteness substantially, for ashes have a marvelous virtue that appeareth above all colors. Leighton indeed ruleth Azoth, and mocketh him red with the 9 eagles, that is, 9 parts of water, the volatile tincture of our brass, and subliming it in its vessel it is altogether whitened. Wherefore raises, the substance of all things is equal to the 10th part, but if thou wouldst signify the whole, 9 parts must needs be made of the substance of water. And Moses and the Tubba, join first 9 parts of vinegar, for these are the eagles that have their bows outstretched, mortifying the body and drawing forth its soul, which is the tincture of brass. Parmenides, this Red Sea turneth gold into red fire, for nature rejoiceth with nature. Boil therefore in the humor, until the hidden nature appear, that is, until it be deprived of the blackness that was ethyl from ethyl, that is, from silver of rosin. If ye dissolve, that is, if ye resolve into our water, the white body, that is, our brass, there shall be drawn forth from it flowers, that is, its tincture. And Aristeas in the Tubba, take the body which the master bade, making thereof thin plates, then put them into the water of our sea, which, when they are covered, is called permanent water. Boil it with gentle fire until the body be dissolved and made water, and cast in ethyl, that is, quicksilver, and roast them together with gentle fire until it become a broth marked with solar fatness, and be converted into its own ethyl, namely from which it was, and the nature is composed, until it become a good coin, that is, blackness, which we call the flower of the sun. Boil it also until it be deprived of blackness and whiteness appear, and this is burnt brass and the flower of gold. Pythagoras in the Taba saith, there is a most sharp vinegar which mocketh pure gold to be spirit, which having neither whiteness, nor blackness, nor rust abideth. And when that vinegar is mingled with the body, it turneth it into spirit, and tincteth it with a spiritual tincture which never can be blotted out. And the son of Azir, this vinegar burneth the body and turneth it into ashes, and also mocketh it white, and if it be boiled until it be well deprived of blackness, it becometh a stone and a most white coin. Afterwards he addeth, now by this disposition is shown unto you a nature stronger than all natures, more powerful and more noble, which I know to be the pure vinegar, by the mercy of God alone. And the more I read books, the more I perceived. But men, as perfect as they might be, clothed in divers kinds and colors, are the philosophers and prophets, the servants of God, who beckon to the reading and understanding of the wisdom of the Most High, that they may perceive that to the servant of God his treasure shall never fail. But the barbarous letters and the infinite kinds are the riddles and dark sophisms of the wise, that they might hide them from the wicked. Wherefore in the Taba, though they have infinite names, yet by one name are they named, wherein is no deceit nor diversity. And where it profiteth not, it is magnified with great names, and where it profiteth, there it is hidden. For it is a stone and not a stone, and because it is spirit, soul, and body, it is white volatile hollow, as touching the porosity of the earth. And because it drinketh up all its earth, it is salt, hairless, which no one over-subtilized may touch without great offense. If thou makest it fly, it fleeth, and if thou sayest it is water, thou sayest true, and if thou sayest it is not water, thou sayest false. Be not therefore deceived by the multitude of names, but hold it certain, that each thing is that which it is, to which no alien thing is joined. Seek therefore its companion, that is, brass, and join nothing else thereto. And suffer men to multiply names, for if they did not multiply them, children would deride our wisdom. All these things are written in the Taba, at the end, concerning the riddles of the wise. 2 birds are homogeneous, that is, of one nature, and they are the stone of the wise. The male is without wings, that is, he cannot fly, because fire of itself cannot corrupt him, nor can he exhale in the fire, nor can any salts or spirits or alums, save our eagle so called. But the winged bird is the female, which with corrupting bodies is consumed. Hence they said, set the female upon the male, and the male ascendeth upon the female, for by the help of the female and of her water he fleeth, and becometh a moist spirit, and quicksilver is drawn forth by men, that is, by reason and great understanding. Whence Theophilus, and whatsoever the envious have obscurely related in their books, they meant to signify quicksilver, which some have called the water of sulfur, others white lead, others brass, sometimes it is named the compounded coin. And they joined the male with the female in his proper humor, because without male and female no offspring is generated. Morinus described 5 parts or orders of the stone: first, the coitus; second, conception; third, impregnation; fourth, birth; fifth, nourishment. For if there be not coitus, there will not be conception, and if there be not conception, there will not be impregnation, and if there be not impregnation, there will not be birth. This is the ordering of the operation, for it is likened to the creation of man. Whence Morinus said afore, O good king, I confess the truth unto thee, that this standeth most of all by divine nod in its creation. For every creation is of God, and cannot subsist without this water, to wit, the humour or water. And afterwards he addeth, why should I rehearse many things? For this thing is drawn from a thing. Its or hath never existed with thee, yet they found it, and, to confess more truly, they take it from the thing itself, and thou hast demanded it of no or. Understand, as to the creation of man, of male and female, and of lust, as to the moist. For if there were not moisture in the womb, as Bonellus saith in the Taba, the seed would not be preserved until it bring forth the fetus. And the constant one calleth his stone a watery moist thing, for a sophism. And know, my son, that this stone, from which this secret is drawn, God hath not set to be bought with a price, for it is found cast forth in the ways, that it may be had of poor and rich, that by reason and knowledge a man may lightly come unto it. And the moist is everywhere, and our stone is moist with a watery and metallic moisture, whence they said it is both the vilest and the most precious thing in the world. For the common humor, of which all things are generated, is beyond price. Hamuel expoundeth this vilest, saying, the most precious thing in the world, of garments, is silk, and it is of worms, and honey, wherein is the health of man, is of bees, and pearls are drawn from shells. And man, who is more worthy than aught that is in the world, is of seed. But the brass of the art, and the ore, only the opinion of men mocketh precious, as is nobly said in the book Consolation of Philosophy. For the beauty which they have is not theirs but of the light, for every color is light terminated by an opaque in a perspicuous body. For gold and silver and gems of their nature will to lie hidden in the mire and in the dark earth. Whence Morinus would signify this, saying, if thou findest that which thou seekest in the dunghill, take it, but if thou findest it not in the dunghill, withdraw thy hand from the purse. And likewise Gratianus, and if in the dung thou findest that which pleaseth or profiteth thee, nevertheless take it, signifying that thou must take of the fresh or which hath not been in the work. And what Morinus addeth, for everything that is bought at a great price, in the craft of this work, is found lying and unprofitable, signifieth the forbidding of vain things, as pearls, quicksilver, sulfur, arsenic, sal ammoniac, which flee the fire. How then shall good be expected from that which is not permanent? For a tincture drawn from a bodily and combustible root is annulled like its root. For things are not changed, as they go out from their root, in minerals, nor is it seen so in the seeds of vegetables and the seeds of animals, as from an egg a chick ariseth by divers transmutations from that whence it hath its root, and likewise from seed a man is made, nothing else supervening save the menstrual blood, from which the seed is made, of blood equal and like unto itself, by which thereafter it is nourished. But the excretion of dung and urine, blood, hair, eggs, and the like, have no neighborhood with metallic things, so that of their root gold and silver could be made, as certain ignorant ones suppose, for naught goeth forth from man save man, nor from a like thing save alike unto itself. Therefore gold and silver go not forth save from a like species. Whence the elder, son of Hamuel, every animal is not generated of itself, save with that which is of itself, with its own species, which is homogeneous unto it. Likewise Adam and Eve and all the race of men. Therefore everything agreeth with its like, and is near according to species. Begin in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and know its nature, for it is of the root of its matter, that which is in the same and of the same, nor doth any other enter upon it which is not also of it, and it is its root. Likewise mercury is of it, and this is that from which it is extracted, and it is in it and of it. For the stone of the philosophers is water congealed, as in gold and in silver, and it withstandeth the fire and is resolved into its own water, of which it is composed, of its own kind. Whence Hermes, not befitteth a thing save that which is nearest unto it by its nature, and it will beget an offspring like unto it. And straightway it is subjoined, moisture is gold, under the dominion of the moon, and fatness is under the dominion of the sun, whence these two, sun and moon, are one, and the curd, and the seed. And King Aro saith, water is not glued save with the like of its sulfur, nor is there found in a thing aught like unto itself, save that which is of it. And Khaled, son of Isid, neither those past nor those present can tinct gold, save with gold, and the rest thou shalt find in the senior. And these things said concerning the two birds and the eagles may suffice. It followeth, why did he set many suns and moons? It is answered, because the spirit and the soul go not forth together in one act, but little by little, part after part, successively. These are clearly declared in the senior, but I will expound that which he omitted. 2 full moons and halves are 5, to be reckoned from the lesser, to wit, the half moon, and 4 half moons are in 2 full moons, and the 2 suns are all 7. Hence it is that he saith afterwards, 7 are the orders of the weight, 5 of them are without obscurity, namely the moons, the beauty of the 2 shining ones, that is, of the 2 parts of the sun. And because there is not but the image of the sun and moon upon the tablet, and number, the weight followeth the number of the figures upon it. And he presently subjoined, Know that of one root there be not less than 3 and the third half part, that is, the weight that is set with it, to wit, with the sun, unto that third, namely 9. For, as Hermes saith, the sun and moon are the roots of this art. And Rhasis biddeth receive 3 parts of fire and 7 of earth, and part answereth to part, as he saith, by equality of proportion. And, according to the opinion of Obed, Rhasis, of light 4 parts, and of air 1 part, and of fire 1 part. In the book of the 3 words 4 weights are set, first, of earth 11 parts, and of fire 1 part, and add unto them of unguent, and set to dissolve until they be made together. And this dissolution is taken from that color. Some say 3 parts of earth and 1 of fire, the regimen is one and the same, and either is right, yet the first speaketh better. And Zenoa in the Taba saith, 1 part of the sincere body, that is, of the sun, and 3 of the other brass, then mingle with vinegar, and straightway cook until it be earth. And Dardaris in the Taba saith, and 4 coins dye the vulgar, but they dye brass, that is, mercury, and brass being dyed, they dye the coins of the vulgar. And he saith that quicksilver is of 4 bodies, which are souls hidden in 4 bodies. Others say, not so, but there are 7 parts of earth and 1 of fire, and this also is good, yet the first is better. Some do say, not so, but that there be 11 parts of earth and 1 of fire, and the regimen is the same, yet the first is better. And he addeth, Work therefore as thou wilt, for the regimen is the same, and the space of time also the same. And, as one saith in the Book of Lights, they will 3 parts of earth and 1 of fire, which yet pleaseth not Rhasis. For he saith, the inequality of price ought not to be changed. Note, the leaves with 2 parts of ointment must be amalgamated by wind and fire, and afterwards the whole ointment cooled with its true weight, so that it be 9 parts of neighbors and 1 part of brass. And in the Taba, Pandulphus, behold, in the egg are 4 things, earth, water, air, and fire, and in the midst a red point of the sun, which is the chick. And Morinus saith, that the first proposition is almost nothing. And a certain one experienced in this art said, a little of the sun, as a dram, that it be the seed of fire. And the constant one, searching all, saith, I found 2 substances, namely the agent and the patient, and lo, the agent is now everywhere, but the patient in many things. Whence it is known that in this work, of one taken 2 are made, namely male and female. Moreover, the male is everywhere singular, but the female in many. And note, the weight of the art is double. One is the common, wherein is no diversity, namely 9 and a 10th part, the other is the singular or plural, and it is double, the first of the first work, and that is in the first composition of brass, and it differeth from the second diversely. Note of the weight of imbibition, how much, namely, the blood can imbibe of the parts, which nature knoweth better than the artificer. For nature doth the imbibition, not hand nor handling, but fire and azoth, as the constant one said. Now there is another weight, spiritual, of the second work, and that likewise is diverse according to divers masters. Athamas in the Taba willeth the 3rd part of fire and 2 of earth to be mingled. For he saith, if there be 24 ounces, quench the heat with a 3rd part, that is, 8 ounces of vinegar. And Bonellus in the Taba warneth, saying, Beware lest ye multiply the humour, nor set it dry, but make it as a mass firm, knowing that if ye multiply the mass of water, it will not contain it, nor will it burn well in the furnace, that is, it will not dry well, nor if ye dry it too much, will they be joined or cooked. And Arsubras likewise in the Taba, join it with snow water, as with a man it may be thought sufficient, and boil until the rust be consumed. But Morinus willeth a 4th part of fire and 3 of earth. For he saith, when thou shalt have led the foul body, afterwards put of the ferment, that is, of aqua vitae, the 4th part thereof. For the ferment of gold is gold, as the ferment of bread is bread. And when thou shalt have put it, set it in the sun to cook, until these two be reduced into one. And Hermes, to whom none was like, teacheth to add a fourth part, and that not at once, but from fourth to fourth, that is, in 4 days, each day a fourth. And grind in a mortar until it become like fatness or ointment, and afterwards roast unto dryness, and again grind to moisture in many days. And this 9 times dissolve and coagulate, for in every solution and coagulation its effect is increased. Rhasis in the Book of Lights teacheth to add an equal part of water unto the earth, as in his work appeareth, yet Helmer's method is better than theirs. And no, the philosophers oftentimes set the end before the beginning in their treatises, and the beginning in the end, interchanging. Whence sometimes they depressed the first work and spake of the second, sometimes they recalled the first work and left the second, sometimes with roots of knowledge, sometimes without oars. Wherefore Hermes, in the Book of Roots, which is the second of the 7, saith, the wisdom of the author is greater than his book. For he may take away the beginning or the end, with the root or without the root, as the first inventor. And in the 5th of the 7, after he had spoken enough concerning the conjunction of water and earth, and of the weight of the second work, namely of the 4th part and of the 5th part, and of another set 2 ways to be swallowed, then he speaketh of the first weight at the end, saying, that according to the sentence of the heavens, and according to the sentence of particulars, and according to the sentence of good materials, it is a secret. And I will say unto thee but singly. And it is this, 1 part fire and 3 of earth. And now by God be blessed, for natures are 4 and no more. Whence their weights are multiplied, either by the 4 natures of the elements, or by the 4 natures and the second water, or by the plurality of things, to wit, 3, which is the perfect number, or by the 7 planets, or by the 12 signs whereby the work is ruled. They set their weights accordingly, the first set a 4th part of the sun, the second a 5th, the third a 3rd or a little more, the 4th a 7th, as Rhasis put 7 parts of earth and 3 of fire, the 5th a 12th. And by divers reasons they set diverse weights. And sometimes, speaking of one work, they set the weights of another. Whence the elder, and they perchance spake a word in one sense, and under it is another. Furthermore, the first 5, namely 2 of the upper, the waxing moon and the full moon, and 3 others subtle, namely the 2 birds and the full moon, signify the first work, which is the extraction of tinctures from the body, until nothing remain in the body that ascendeth not with the moist spirit, whereby the body is modified and turned into clear water. Yet first appeareth blackness, from the dominion of the moist in the hot, which lasteth so long until the moisture be consumed, then the water is whitened. And of this water Morinus saith, that with it thou shalt do nothing, save it be fermentative itself. And the elder saith, before thou descendest, thou hast made these 3 parts of water, namely water, air, and fire, being in the water above their white and foliated earth. That is, in the second work, the first and the first work is wholly dissolved, namely the moist body, and becometh earth, that is, the stone. Whence their first preparation is necessary, as is the custom, and this is the putrefaction of the body, each beastly subtle, 150 days, and some say 120 natural days, and perchance whiteness first shall appear in 170 days. But this is not approved among the philosophers, because it signifieth the intent of the fire. And therefore the first in humor is with him better than the second or the third, because it signifieth the temperance of the fire, until whiteness be given and redness returned. Note, albeit these refer back to the first dissolution of things, yet the elder meaneth the second whiteness, which in 150 days is resolved, with certain colors of days, or in 21 days it is resolved into water, or in 150 days is resolved the second whiteness, which is the first work and the whole coagulation of the whole. This is more true and proved. Of this putrefaction Pandulphus in the Taba, most hidden, most honorable, this is the white magnesia, which being mixed and ground in wine, take not unless it be clean and pure, and set it in its vessel, and pray unto God that he make thee to see the right stone, and cook it gently, and when thou hast drawn it forth, see if it be black, and if so, thou hast ruled well. But if not, rule it white, which is the great secret, until it be covered with blackness, and afterwards blackness cometh, which lasteth 40 days only, and it is whitened and coagulated. And this water is the flour of brass, the Indian gold, the water of saffron, and fixed alum. And as Assuerus in the Tubba, by authority of Hermes, saith, Hermes commanded that a part of the coins be taken, that is, moist white, and of the brass of the philosophers a part, and mingle it with the coins, and set it in a vessel well shut, and boil it 7 days of one name, then shall brass be turned into coins, that is, into moist white, and again coagulated 7 days, and let not the decoction cease. Afterwards the vessel shall appear, and blackness shall be found. Again repeat the decoction, until the blackness be consumed, which being consumed, a most noble whiteness shall appear, and so it shall take the humour of the sun and the spirit of the moon. And this is the first work, which no other goeth before. Now the 2 homogeneous birds are male and female, but the number of 2 set into 1 in the figures, namely 7. But the full moon sudden signifieth the humour of the sun and the spirit of the moon, of the moist stone of the philosophers, drawn in its water. Above is the crescent moon likewise, for little by little, and not at once, but part after part, the tincture ascendeth, until all the humour, congealed in brass, be turned into a moist spirit of its kind. This is signified by the second full moon, which is Abrahana's perfect, and of that divine water, which is the stone of the philosophers, is the whole book of the elder. The second half of the figures signifieth likewise the second work, that is, of congelation, namely of the parts of their water, that is, of the colours of water in the white and clean earth, that is, of the fixation thereof therein. The sun with 2 rays is the image of the divine water, in which are 3, namely fire, air, and water, and it is water compounded of 2 natures, male and female. And yet it is threefold water, because of the third thing added to the 2. And this water is not all imbibed at once, that is, ground, but singly, with divers rays it is imbibed, ground, coagulated, and incinerated. The sun with 1 ray is, that the threefold water is one natural and homogeneous in one water. And albeit the works be 2, white and red, yet is it one work, beginning in the same and ending in the same, and not otherwise, and it is the figure of 1 in 1. The earth is the lower body of 2 bodies, unto which a third of its kind is mingled, which is first coagulated, like unto a mirror or a bared sword, and afterwards by greater heat is incinerated, and again ground with the moist spirit until it no more appeareth, but is mingled with it, and becometh as ointment, and again is coagulated, then incinerated. And thus this first must be brought again to its end, until it be fully whitened with fixed whiteness. And this is the second and third of the art, of which Morainus saith, O king, if thou hadst sold thy kingdom, thou wouldst not recompense this work. Then again it is imbibed, until it be mingled, and congealed, and incinerated. For in the Tubba Pandulphus saith, Know ye, as oft as ye unite ashes, so oft must ye dry and moisten it, until its colour be turned into that which is sought, and the whole be coagulated. And in the imbibition it putteth forth infinite colours, until the perfect and last, crimson and fixed, be brought forth by continual fire, without handling of the hands. Whence the philosopher Mundus, afterwards in 40 days finish, until the spirit penetrate the body. For this is the regimen whereby spirits are incorporated, and bodies turned into spirits. And I warn you, let not the compound fume, which done, ye have the greatest secret, which the philosophers have hidden in their books. The earth which the black sphere compassed is the second blackness, which cometh by the moisture of the water cast upon the earth. But that it is divided by its third, that is, by 3/3, signifieth the 3 saltations, or 3 earths, namely the earth of pearls, and the earth of leaves, and the earth of gold. The earth of pearls is the first earth, from which tinctures are drawn in its water, whence proceedeth the pearl. The second is the earth of leaves, that is, of colours, for it bringeth forth variable colours, until it be perfectly whitened. And when it is perfectly whitened, that is the third. Or it may be said, the first is the earth of leaves, because the leaves of brass being changed pass into water and earth, the second the earth of pearls, when it is fully whitened, and the third earth is the solar tincture, and itself the earth after denigration. The second whitened is called the gold of the philosophers. And the water is their gold, for it is the matter of gold which begetteth gold, according to the elders. And those three earths are one nature of one sphere and one kind. And in like manner it is to be understood of the three saltations, and saltings, that is, imbibitions with the three smallest earths. The first third is congealed and incinerated, and becometh male, and there are two males, of the sun and of Mercury, and one female of lunar nature. Then by the rest of the water, which are 6 parts of color, is made another female, and there shall be 2 males and 2 females. The second third is the saltation, which is nothing else but this: calcine, dissolve, distill, coagulate, and incinerate, and again calcine, until the whole be coagulated. And by figure is signified the last third and the end of the work. Of these 3 earths the Tubba, in the chapter of Enigmas, speaketh throughout, dividing its work into 3, first, into the dead body, and the extraction of the soul from the body, which is the first work; second, into the whitening of the body, and its cleansing by its own water, imbibing and roasting, until it be whitened like unto snow or white salt; third, into the clean soul joined to the clean and white body. Wherefore the first enigma of the Tubba: take a man, beat him upon a stone or plate, dragging until his body die, and his spirit be drawn forth, this is the first. Then of the second it saith, thereafter the body shall live again, until it be spiritual, and its thickness perish. And be thou sure, when it hath lost its grossness, it shall be made spiritual. Of the third it followeth straightway, restore to it afterwards its soul, that is, the lively and vivid color, then set it in the bath for 40 days, as the seed abideth in the womb, and this is the beginning of our regeneration. And thus ariseth creation, and the proposition is fulfilled. Lo, he setteth 3 earths, the dead earth, the white earth, which is the inner moon of whiteness, and in the whiteness, redness, that is, the living earth, which is the third earth. Whence Florinus in the Tubba: when ye shall see that whiteness excelling, be ye certain that redness is hidden therein. Then must ye draw it forth, and so long boil it, until it be wholly made red. And that which is said, for 40 days, signifieth one name. Athamas likewise saith, for 42 days, and addeth the measure, even as seed tarrieth in the womb, which is 40 weeks. And because this may be done sooner or later, Athamas addeth, that this second work, from the 10th day of the month September, which is the first month among the Egyptians by reason of fruitfulness, unto the 10th of Libra, is perfected, that is, within the year is its perfection, for by diversity of fire it may be finished sooner or later. And after the soul is joined unto the body, the fire must not go out, namely by 3 terms and 3 degrees of fire, and the alteration must be gradative, until in the 3rd degree it be finished, as Gratianus saith. Concerning the determinations and degrees of fire, consult the book of the 3 words, where I have expounded it. Note concerning the house of treasures, of which the author spake in the first, the constant one speaketh thus: therefore, my sons, I will show you the place of this stone. Let not the unskilled presume to read it, nor despair of coming unto knowledge. For this is in a place which is in very truth the place of the 4 elements, and there are 4 gates. If thou wouldst know them, I say, first, they are 4 stations, 4 corners, 4 bounds, and 4 walls. These 4 I will expound by 4 keys at the end of this poem. It followeth, this house is a treasury, in which are treasured all sublime things of sciences and wisdoms, or of the most glorious matters that may be had. And this house of treasures is shut with 4 gates, which are opened with 4 keys. To each gate is 1 key. None can enter into this house, nor draw aught from it, nor know the secret that is therein shut, unless first he know the key and bear it with him, or at least be of the household of the house. Know then, my son, and heed well, that he who knoweth 1 key and knoweth not the rest, shall open the gate of the house with his key, yet shall not behold the things that are in the house, for the house hath a surface tending inward unto the sight. Therefore must each gate be opened with its several key, that the whole house may be filled with light. Then let whoso will enter and take of the treasure. Know, my son, that unto thee the treasures are not hidden, but are kept in that house before thine eyes, when thou enterest into the house. Yet will I show or bestow upon thee one key, which by its signs thou shalt find, by which, if thou hast reason, thou shalt find the other three from it. And this one key is the access of water through the neck of the vessel, at whose head is the likeness of a human creature, and it is the basilisk of wisdom, without a horn, which draweth forth water with the horn of the stag, and the bud of the chief water, and the brightness of the most fair river, whose stones are most renowned, precious stones, gems, and corals. From the vapor of their fatness is made one key. And if thou wouldst have perfection, thou must draw forth the other three, and know the glory. Of the four bounds, the first key is the extraction of humor and fatness, that is, of water and oil. And the humor is of the moon, and the fatness of the sun, whose signs are these, an exceeding blackness, which, when consumed, the soul is purified in water by distillation. Via timorous saith, thou shalt wait for the water to be sublimed of vapor. For when thou shalt see nature make water of the heat of fire, and the whole body of magnesia as melted into water, then are all the vapors made, and by right the vapor draweth and holdeth its mate, for the fixed holdeth the volatile. For natures cast themselves unto natures. And raises in the book of lights, when thou makest the inhumation, until it be turned into soft water, then thou shalt have thy desire, and this is after the first whiteness. The second key is the attenuation of the earthy body, for there abideth in it rigidity and pliancy and foulness, which cannot be stripped away save by laborious and subtle wit, as is said in the Tubba. For the body cannot be made thin so long as pliancy and rigidity and hardness remain in it. Let the body therefore be taken, as the Tubba saith, and washed, and at a slow and tepid heat of the fire let it be rubbed, and, even as they who with ashes and water of the stronger lime make things white, let it be very white. Then let it for one night be left in a moist place, afterwards, being washed with sea water, let it be sprinkled little by little until it be most fully whitened, until from all defilement it be cleansed and be seen most white. But let this whiteness not be without great blackness first, in whose belly is this whiteness of our most white salt, and this is the second key. The third key is the imbibition of all the water, that is, of the remaining humidity, which now hath the name of oil, with long grinding, for roasting and congelation, incineration and waxing, must be made with the same oil, until the whole water be brought together into one. The fourth key is fixation in 3 terms and 3 degrees of fire, until it be fixed and tinging. And the constant one addeth in another chapter, then, after the coagulation, make it fly, for certain months, that is, for 40 days of one name, in warm dung, that is, in the moist fire of the fleece, until the water grow red and thicken and become equal. And I understand that the constant one will have 3 parts of earth and 1 of fire, for he saith, from the vapor of their fatness is one key, and fatness is fixed under the dominion of the sun. And if thou seekest perfection, thou must draw forth the other 3 parts of earth. But the first gloss is the better, and this deceiveth not. And note that all philosophers expert had one vessel, the inexpert, 2, at least one for the register wherein they perceived the remainder. Whence Gratianus saith, and note, if all things be prepared together by the experienced, it is good, yet greater experience is for searchers when the single things are prepared singly and examined, one by the remainder. For thou canst not otherwise prepare singly, for one water sufficeth not without the other, that is, the lunar without the solar, nor is aught begotten of one only, but of male and female together. And by God, in expounding all these things, for a long time I consulted those men, 100 times by reading readings, and I had this not save by inspiration from God. And in few words we have shunned much talk, and have the favor and blessing of the elder. Then will I briefly set forth the doctrine of the constant one. Take the whiteness and the blackness, which are the first and second keys of the work, and leave them while they are cooked, that is, fermented, that is, corrupted, in the alembic and in its vessel, and it ascendeth, that is sublimed into vapor, in its own moisture. Cast away the dregs, that is, the blackness which is ethyl, blot it out and purge the water, stretch the water, that is, wash the water. Gloss. Hermes tincteth according to the quantity of clearness, Wherefore stretch the water, that is, distill it by subliming, until it be clear, and all the moisture of the mass be drawn forth clear and white, make the earth clean from grossness and rigidity, or make it a subtle ash deprived of blackness. Close the vessel firmly, with gypsum or wax and white of egg, for there are winds therein, which if they be not held, the whole work would perish, as thou sayest in Morainus to King Khalid in the dialogue, truths most true. For it would chill the matter in the vessel and quench the fire. Truly smoke, that is, let not the matter smoke out of the vessel, neither let there be the smoky signs of wood coals, but the subtle fire of beasts, well hooded. Bring the fire nearer, that is, let the massing of the earth with the water be stronger by setting near, keep the putrefaction. Gratianus, and let each thing calcine be dissolved in its manner, that it may putrefy. And Morainus in the dialogue of the wise author, all the strength of this magistery is not save after putrefaction. He saith, if it be not putrid, it returneth to nothing. And he subjoineth, that after putrefaction the Most High God shall bring forward the state, composition, cooling, and heating, truly, that is, the excess of heat and of cold, persevere in temperance, that is, in the mean, keep away from extreme heats, not excessive. And all work is marred beyond measure, that is, by excess and overabundance, so that the mass be neither too dry nor too moist. Whence Bonellus in the Tubba, know that if thou multiply the water of the mass, the fire conteneth it not, nor will it burn well in the furnace, and if thou dry it overmuch, it will neither be joined nor cooked. Hasten not. Whence Rhasis in the Book of Lights, when water is mingled with ashes, it whiteneth it within, wait therefore for the whiteness. In this business, if the difficulty of working, or weariness, or fatigue, affect the workman with negligence, the very waiting beareth him of joy, choketh hope, destroyeth esteem. It followeth, be patient in cooking and in putrefying, grudge not the time. Albeit it be long, yet in the elder's sight it is nearer than every other work. And talents ever prepared never prosper. It followeth, and near, truly, as the elder said, this work is not accomplished save in many days, nor is it needful that the glass be latticed. As Hermes saith, it sufficeth a man for 1,000,000 years, and though every day thou shouldst feed 2,000 men, thou wouldst not consume it, for it tinkteth unto infinity, and so greatly that it cannot be comprehended by understanding. And in the 5th book of the 7 he saith, thou shalt not know its effect until thou hast wrought and completed, and all this thou knowest already, how infinite it is, etc. It followeth, and that animals, that is, the colors which are through the living water in the earth, foul not, that is, defile not, with dregs, that is, with powders or blackness. For, as Rhasis saith in the Book of Lights, let there never be black at the end, for if aught black remain, the medicine is imperfect. And the elder saith, if blackness remain in it after its reddening, thou hast sinned in its preparation and hast corrupted whatsoever thou hast wrought, and remember, for grief of the sin and the loss, for these are incomparable riches. The living colors are white, citron, and ruddy, for, as is said in the Tubba, burning mocketh white and mocketh red, and therefore he said animals, because the soul of certain things coloreth and quickeneth the body. Yet some books have, and be not loath to beget the animals, that is, to bring them forth, for the offspring of the stone is a color ever lively and abiding forever. Some books have animals, foul not, that is, open not, let the vessel be shut. But in the register those animals, that is, the colors, thou mayest essay. It followeth, be not weary in what thou doest, redden until all the water be coagulated, yea, until it be coagulated, and flee not the fire, that is, let it be fixed. This is the proof above all proofs, if, being firm upon an iron plate, it emit not, nor flow like wax, and adhere firmly to the metal. It followeth, for the water knoweth the battle of the fire, and the length of cooking and putrefying and thickening. For every work is double to itself, and the artificer followeth their nature until it come to its order by fire and by cooking. It followeth, then, that is, after the coagulation, in warm dung, that is, in the fire of the wise, surround the vessel and laden for certain months, that is, 9, even as seed abideth in the womb, as it is said in the enigmas of the Tubba, make it abide or fly, that is, ascend. For it ascendeth and descendeth in the tree of the sun, until it become Kells, that is, the elixir. That which he saith, for certain months, mundus in the Tubba calleth 40 days, and addeth what they be, even as seed abideth in the womb, that is, 9 months or thereabout. It followeth, know also that no Kells mocketh red save that which is made of scarabs, that is, of the red pigment, which is aura pigment. It followeth, let no water be Kells, save that which is made of scarabs, our water. For this water alone is the water of the infinite treasure. And thou sayest rightly, let no water be elixir, save this water of the red oil, which is the singular water, and none other, for no other is wholly known. Whence raises, all other stones, our stone excepted, bring forth a liquid water, for from what elements our nature is constituted, it is known, and that is of the most temperate complexion, and of the strongest composition. But the water of other stones is simple liquid, of feeble composition. The elder, and if any should labor to find another medicine for this operation, he could not. And elsewhere he saith, after God, thou hast no other medicine. For this verily is the art of the wise, which driveth away poverty. And he subjoineth, neither the ancients nor the present can tinge gold, save with gold. And what is not gold, namely, their stone, from it proceedeth gold. And blessed Assiduous saith, when we speak of the substance, we name not gold until it be wrought gold, for it is not called gold, but heavenly and glorious water, namely, our brass, and our silver, and our silk. All speeches beyond are vain, for it is one and the same, namely, wisdom, which God hath offered unto whom he would. And Assiduous subjoineth, whence cometh the word? Go unto the fountain, O thirsty one, and arriving in the land of the black or dusky, for it behoveth that the earth be blackened in the first work, as also in the second and in the 9. Nor is there need of more than 9 parts of vinegar, according to the elder and Moses in the Tubba. And Hamuel setteth 9 eagles. It followeth, even so, strangle them, that is, shut them in a vessel well sealed, and take their blood, that is, their redness, their fatness, which is their poison, slaying, that is, the icer of all imperfect bodies, whose leprosy it slayeth, and which reduceth the mercury of competition into perfect gold. For it converteth not aught, save that which is of its nature, and becometh unto it. It followeth, that which ascendeth to the heights, and straightway floweth to the receptacle, boil it until it be red, that is, until all the tincture be drawn forth, which is after the utter blackness, whereof whitening is the sequel. And straightway he addeth, I will signify to thee this stone. Unless this vapor ascend, thou hast not of it, for itself is the work, and without it nothing. And as the soul unto the body, so is it, which is the Kells. Say not then that of envy I have written, and have not named the water, albeit I have named it. Look, and believe me, that this stone is not a stone. Never hast thou heard any philosopher say that this stone is the water of the living fountain. And raises in the book of lights, our stone, in which is all our effect and grace, is of a brazen vision, indeed of water, of the nature of fire, burning in color, entire in the property of natures, neither hard nor moist, a substance also that melteth, and apt for the use of many medicines, and vile, so that in all its showing it taketh the form of water. Then follow the further precepts of Assiduous, saying, in this book is the perfection of the letters of vellum, and the most perfect and certain work in the midst of its kind, which sun is in the midst of the planets, that is, of the metals, of middle and temperate complexion, and in the midst of its kind, between Mercury and Venus, and in the midst of its age, as touching the second work or first whitening, for then it tinkteth the perfect white. It is also of optoist putrefaction, that is, of incineration, and of the handling of the soul from the body by putrefaction, and by blinding it putrefieth, and in the aptitude of goodness or position, that is, of the parts in all their good order, it resteth. And when this is unclean, namely, the sun, or the blemished moon, or troubled Jupiter, or if it be not taken in due season, that is, old or young, not yet known, that is, unrolled by transmutation into its own water. And thus he proceedeth, warning that the aptness of putrefaction must be joined with the aptness of goodness of position, which hath respect unto the placing of strong fire, and to the due proportion of vessels. Moses in the Despiseth of Senio, if the egg compounded be ruled beyond what is meet, then by great fire indeed its light, taken from the sea, is quenched, for it ascendeth to the sides, and is not dissolved, and by consequence is neither congealed nor tinging. Of the due time the same saith, rule it, and cook it until whiteness appear, and then ye shall see one of three fellows left, namely the water of life, in which are three, fire, water, and air, or the water of life from the body, in which likewise are three. And Limerus saith, about 12 or 18 days, so long as there is no sign, and when it is in blackness, even the greatest. And Morinus saith, that the blood must be broken, lest it hinder, which breaking, that is, separation, is done after it is whitened. And note, if it be ruled longer than is needful, then the body will intrude again, and therefore in due season must it be taken. And further it followeth, or if it be taken from the lower part of its kind, that is, from other perfect planets. And Pandulphus in the Despiseth, the egg of the philosophers, when it is overturned, is against the greater world. For our egg, according to its midst, is called higher, namely from the sun, but according to its extremities is called lower, namely, the other two parts. For the egg of the world, according to the poles, is called higher, and according to its midst lower, and in the midst is the point of the sun, as the chick, and in the upper part the same. But in the egg of the world contrariwise, its midst is lower. For example, in the world fire is the subtler, lighter, and higher element, but in the egg, fire is the lowest, for it is set in the midst. And in the world earth is the grosser, heavier, and lowest element, but in the egg, the outer shells are earth, and the highest element, and so of the rest. Therefore it is true, that the egg hath itself contrary to the egg of the world. And thus the philosophers called this art the egg. It followeth, the saying of Assiduous, neither in a strange fire nor with a strange spirit doth it work. For, as the elder saith, make not aught alien enter upon it, for it shall corrupt it and destroy the whole. Rather, better to say, it worketh not in another fire, but in its own fire, which is moist. For strange fire is unequal and excessive, lacking temperance. For the whole efficacy of this work consisteth in its own fire, as Morinus and Geber witness. For the heat of the sun alone generateth the good complexion, which heat the fire of nature doth imitate. It followeth, when that other is digested, namely, the bird's water of life, which is the animated tincture, by incorruptions its form is perfected. And after it is whitened, then is it apt for operation. Wherefore it must not be taken before melancholy, that is, blackness, abound in it, nor after it aboundeth. Nor let it be taken before the air, that is, vapor of air, be begotten in it, that is, in the unclean body not yet spirited. And if thou defer too long, then it fadeth. But after it is more perfectly formed, it is apt for operation, before melancholy abound, for otherwise it would work into black and not into red or white. And before the air, that is, the soul of life, be begotten in it, namely, while it remaineth an unclean and gross body not yet spiritualized, and it grow sickly, that is, morbid and melancholy, before melancholy abound, and a strange air be begotten. Note, that this happeneth when the water standeth divided, when it shall be apt for operation, whose coagulum falleth into its coagulant, by the cold of the air and the dryness that congeleth. Which befell one of my companions, who for a year sought it, but it had not been distilled. Then he saith, that in these 10 precepts none erreth. And of this work a certain wise man spake a most fair similitude of the man and woman of the art, saying, Whoso offendeth me in pity, and driveth me from rest, I will smite upon his face, whereby I shall take flight. By this he meaneth to shun the excess of heat, the pity being the soft humidity of the moon. And he who taketh me out of my place, that is, from my air, and bindeth my beloved with me, that is, joineth the sun with the moon in one body in its water, then the arrows from our quiver, that is, the vapors of the humors of our body, shall avenge us and regenerate life, and never hereafter shall we die. And if, besides our Lord of mobility, that is, without the excess of transmutation, we be enclosed and created by slow fire, then shall our champions or propagators, that is, our parents, perish, that is, die, delivering their souls unto the sun, that is, unto the living water. And we, being senseless, that is, without spirit, shall lie in the earth, stripped of our fair garments, that is, of our colors and tinctures, which by nature are vile, for in dung and in the slime of the earth and in dark places they would hide themselves by nature, and only by the opinion of men are made precious. Or thus expound it, stripped of vile garments, that is, in the blackness of the second work. And being bathed in our water, then our soul followeth, that is, the tincture, dead, that is, extinguished, in our bodies appeareth. Whence one said, Though I ascend naked into the heavens, yet clothed shall I return unto the earth, and shall fulfill all the minds. And if in the fountain of gold and silver we be baptized, and the spirit of our body with Father and Son shall ascend into heaven and descend again, then shall our souls be revived, and my body shall abide animal and white, namely the moon. But the body of my beloved, that is, of the Son, shall shine delightful, red, and rosy. This signifieth the second work. And if the parents of my beloved, that is, the dead bodies, shall taste of the vine, and of the water of life of wisdom, and be fed with my milk, and be made drunken with the metals, and in my bed, that is, in the vessel, shall wed, they shall beget the son of the moon, that is, the lunar tincture, who shall prevail over all his kindred, that is, over all his progenitors. And if my beloved drink beforehand of the brook of redness, and taste of the fountain of his mother, and be then coupled with me, and drunken with the red wine of our kin, and drink manifoldly, and lie lovingly with me in his bed, and by his seed enter into my little cell, then shall I conceive, and be with child, and in due time bring forth a most mighty son, ruling and reigning above all things, kings and princes of the earth, crowned with the golden crown of victory, by the Lord God Most High, who liveth and reigneth for ever and ever. Amen. Here endeth the first book. Here beginneth the second book, on the exposition of the figures, concerning the mass of the sun. The exposition of the epistle of the sun unto the waxing moon, in the solar year, which beginneth, in its tenuity, or newness, that is, in its exceeding novelty, namely, of its conjunction with the sun, that is, of its illumination from him. The sun saith unto her, I will give unto thee of my beauty light, even solar, whereby is attained the perfection of tincture, for the solar light is exalted. For all that is high, that is, every planet, is perfected by it. First spake the moon unto the sun, O sun, thou hast need of me, as the cock hath need of the hen, which are two homogeneous birds in one sphere, whereof mention hath been made before. And I, the moon, need thine help, O sun, as the passive needeth its active, unto which it is nigh in potency, namely, of being transformed, without importunity, that is, without haste, out of the full moon, that is, the perfect water. For the moon is mistress of humours, and she establisheth an efficient perfectly. For, as saith Morienus, the root of this science is in the hour of its composition, and thou must wait day and night upon its fixation. Let, therefore, all haste be far from the artificer, and let foresight, reason, and firm expectation be joined. Wherefore a gentle fire must be long applied, and its evenness kept through its days, lest by hasty burning the body be consumed. It followeth, since thou, O sun, art perfect in all parts of the luminaries, thou art light, Lord high and great, for by thee are perfected mineral, vegetable, and animal things. I, the waxing moon, in solar light, am cold and moist, for I am mother of humours, and thou, sun, art hot and dry, which is the principle of all generation. When we shall be coupled, that is, joined in equality of state, that is, in due proportion, and in the mansion, and in the vessel, where no foreign thing shall be, but the light joined with the heavy, that is, spirit with its body, or understand the four elements, by light, fire and air, by heavy, earth and water, as by rare and dense the ancients signified these four, then shall we rest together. In that mansion, that is, in the house of the vessel, we shall dwell abiding, and we shall be as the woman and her husband in the generation of the child. And this is true by the very word. And I, the Son, when we shall be joined abiding in the womb of the closed house, shall receive from thee the soul, that is, the fatness of oil, which is the tincture that vivifieth all things, in flattering, that is, gentle, wise manner, for nature rejoiceth by reason of their nearness in conformable nature, in its own water or with its own water. And nature overcometh nature, and nature conteneth nature. Thus in the Tubba, if thou takest away my beauty, that is, of the moon, by the fairness of anointing, thou intendest the first blackness, for the sun discoloring her bringeth forth the same. And they shall be exalted, that is, sublimed in the exaltation of spirits, even as sublimed spirits, when we ascend by the ordered ladder of Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. By these names they signified that blackness, calling Saturn whiteness, Jupiter redness, and Mars rust or verdigris. Hence, from the beginning of conception even unto the mid-course of the infant, each planet imprinteth his image, by divine virtue. So likewise in this work every planet in his place imprinteth his virtue until the fulfillment of the work, as is said in the book of 3 words. And therefore it was said before, without importunity. For whoso is hasty and over-vehement, by his excess confoundeth the work, for it is not the work of the workman, but the work of nature, the artificer being minister and helper. Another gloss of the head and the tail, as it is said in the Tubba, take the viper and deprive it of head and tail, for in these 2 places its venom resteth, that is, the tincture, whence the spirit proceedeth, to wit, the tinging spirit. Then, join again, the tail and the head, that is, the beginning of the work and its end, and it is one and the same, from which it beginneth and with which it endeth. For this heavenly water worketh all things. Take therefore the residue of the viper's body, that is, the earth, and cook it with a slow fire, that is, the philosophic, until it be separated from the bones, that is, until it become hard, and glitter like a bared sword. And lay it upon plates, that is, in vessels, and long grind it there, by fire and by pestle, until the body be turned into spirit and its pliancy be taken away, for the body cannot be made thin, that is, spiritualized, while pliancy remaineth in it. He intendeth that the residue, the earth whence the tincture is drawn by the water, be incinerated. Dry this body in the sun, that is, at a gentle fire, with evenness of heat. Thereafter join it to its head and its tail, and grind with them, namely with the fire that grindeth all, until thou behold what thou seekest. This done, know that thou hast a body that shall body forth, corporature, piercingly, and a nature containing nature, and a nature barking against nature, which verily is called the theriaca of the philosophers, and it is called a viper because, even as the viper in conceiving through the heat of lust cutteth off the head of the male, and in bringing forth dieth, and is cut through the midst, so the lunar moisture, conceiving the solar light convenient unto itself, slayeth the sun, and in bringing forth the offspring of the philosophers, itself likewise dieth. And both parents, dying, deliver their souls to the sun, that is, to the living water, and they die and pass. And the parents are the food of the sun, and he receiveth their nature, and with brass he is strengthened for the battle of the fire. This sun is praised in all the books of the philosophers, and he is the Indian stone of the Babylonians, and is burnt brass, as Khalid said. It followeth, 7 are the ranks of the ordered weights of bodies. 5 parts of them are without obscurity, namely, of the sun's shadow the beauty is of the 2 shining ones, to wit, the sun, and this composition is according to the number of the figures, the half-earth of the moon, counted from the lesser, the 5 half-moons, and the 2 suns, one with 2 rays, the second with 1 ray. The exposition of these shall be given thee by my exposition, and it is a property of the root. He saith this because he had said, the beauty is of the 2 shining ones. The sun is the key of every gate, that is, of all ingress of the art, and what remaineth there, that is, what we have left, is without doubt, that is, certain. The sun is the simple key of the whole work, with firmament and serenity, that is, with the moon, earthy and opaque, more propitious than the other planets when he hath the masculines, aspects, which belong to him at the full moon, and with the firmament direct, that is, ruled by art. And the moon is called firmament, because Hermes saith, the moon is potent in the firmament and poor in light, and with Mercury of the brighter ones, of convertible nature, the shadow of the sun. Some books have, with the firmament direct, tertiary, the direction being in the ordered mean toward the earthy, elemental, body, and either reading is good. Wherefore he saith, this is the demonstration, that is, the exposition of the 7 parts, this is the division, that is, the separation of the spoiling, namely the strip tincture, this is the division of decoction, that is, of the fire that cooketh. This spoiling we call blackness, which is made by a competent decoction, wherein the indissoluble temperament is loosed and the soul of the tempered thing is drawn forth. Note, according to the elders, that this preparation is called conversion and division, into subtlety and attenuation of spirits, so that they may tinge and be imprinted into bodies, and this by reason of their conversion in the preparation out of state into state, out of thing into thing, out of infirmity into potency, out of grossness into tenuity and subtlety. As seed alone in the womb is converted by natural preparation out of thing into thing, until there be formed thence a perfect man, from that whence is his root and his beginning, and this without the ingress of any other thing save the menstrual blood, whence the seed was, and of blood like unto it, wherefrom cometh his nourishment. Likewise the egg, without ingress of any other thing, is converted from state to state, and is divided from thing to thing, until it be turned into a chick that fleeth, like unto that whence its root and beginning were. Likewise the seeds of earth-born plants rot and are changed, and corruption entereth upon them, even as upon those whence they had their root. And for this cause our minerals are not changed so as to go forth from their root, if they fall back unto that whence they were, they are not turned into other, and he that saith otherwise, saith false. This, then, is the conversion and division thou hearest in the book of wisdom. Thus far saith the elder. It followeth, this is coagulation without division, that is, the conjunction of male and female, and without dissolution after thou hast made it, that is, prepared it, severally affirming those 7 parts of the moon and the 2 of the sun, which 7, divided according to the 7 stars, that is, the 7 planets, for all the planets work upon these 7 parts of our planets, this is the 3rd, to amalgamate Mercury with the 7th part of the weight. Then put of the white moist 9 parts, so that the 10th be the part of brass. And after thou hast cleansed in the preparation of conversion, until they appear like pearls in likeness, then shalt thou no more err. This is the whitening that uncovereth the doubt of thy thirsty earth, and that by the water of the heavenly clouds, in this said demonstration. I have shown thee golden flowers, that is, the solar tincture of every flower, color, turned to the mean between the extremes, white and black, like the garment of the peacock in likeness. For here is the stone in which are all colors, according to the diverse conversions thereof in its preparation. In this work, therefore, the sun, as King and Lord of heaven, sendeth in spirit and life, Mercury fashioneth the little breathing holes, spiracula, for it is the sharpest vinegar that mocketh pure gold to be spirit, as Pythagoras saith, by it corruption and regeneration are wrought. The moon, spouse of the sun, enlighteneth the spirit of the seed conceived of her spouse, and by her cold and moisture she travelleth to bring forth the fetus produced of them. At the entry of the residue of the number of the stars, the 4, there is shown unto thee the impression and image in the decoction, whereby each planet worketh the virtue of God, this is that which he saith, cooked by each star singly. Saturn, by his cold and dryness, constraineth and congeleth the nature in the mass, Jupiter, by his heat and moisture, digesteth, Mars, by his heat and dryness, gathereth the homogeneous and separateth the heterogeneous, Venus, by cold and moisture, disposeth the members and images. And thus natural alchemy is born by natural principles and by the impression of the natural substantial form, the artificer ministering. For brass hath in itself but accidental forms, yet it helpeth nature by disposing the principles, and induceth substantial forms. And though the place of generation be artificial, nevertheless it imitates the natural, for it is a closed place, wherein are taken the principles of nature generated by nature, and by reason of the daily and continual heat long reflected in itself and vapor mingled, it is congealed into a metal, whose vapor is according to the species and wherein is the root. From these things the solution of 2 arguments against the possibility of the art is plain. The first, that ye cannot induce substantial forms, but only accidental, answered above. The second, that the natural place ought to be the beginning of generation. They add that metals are generated by the influence of the planets, whose constellation is hidden from the alchemists, for they must needs begin to work where the celestial nature beginneth to move the ore. To whom it is to be said, the movers of the heavens, whensoever and wheresoever they find the matter disposed, having potency to such a form, then begin they to move by their impressions toward that form, so long as the artificer join the actives to the passives. For the sun and man generate man, nor is it needful that the man who begetteth man should fetch the impression of the sun, but, the active and passive principles concurring, with the aptitude of the matter, the sun disposeth and moveth, as the other planets, according to local distance to the orb. Therefore, though the work may begin at any time, yet one time is more apt than another. For Hermes, Book 2 of the 7, saith, this element is moist in spring and summer, therefore it must be taken between this and that, to wit, 15 days after the sun's entrance into Aries unto his entrance into Taurus. In this time it will be increased the more, and thou must distill this stone while the sun is in Aries and Taurus. So saith Hermes. But assiduous saith it must be set in its vessel without section, breach, in winter, summer, autumn, spring, and all the days of the year. For, as the elder saith, there is seed in the seed, having the world's blessing from the Most Mighty. Let it proceed from male and female noble and most chaste, and let nothing incongruous or mingled be unto this seed, which is the most high matter of gold and silver, of most pure mercury and incombustible sulfur. Therefore each planet imprinteth his image and impression severally, as in human seeds, until it be perfected. It followeth, this is the perfection of coagulation without deceit, and the sun is made, that is, the solar or, in perfect states. Its beginning is in fire, and it grew in fire, it feareth not the ash, that is, the potsherd of ash. It is fixed, not fugitive, it is joined in the body of the metal even unto the heart, that is, into the depth, because it proceedeth from a fixed root, to wit, from the sun, which is the fountain of all heat and the ruler of the planets. It followeth, here is the sun vile and most dear, that is, the sun, namely the stone, whose mother is a virgin and hath not conceived by man, and he is most vile and most precious. He is called vile, because of no price in the eyes of every ignorant person. The female is vile, for if this work be told her, it would seem a lie. The elder, and he is most precious, because without this the nature worketh not, without the moist, that is. For the stone of the philosophers is watery and moist, and the humor is most vile, because it is trodden under foot, and most precious, because it is the beginning of natural generation. This is the riddle of the wise. Wherefore the preparation hereof is hard and hidden, destroying many wise men, and there is no bypath in that stone for those who labor in opinions and operations. For he saith, infinite have taken its root, and men have gone vainly away from the root of this science, and have not possessed the like thereof, and yet it never runneth into their estimation. Therefore it is hard to the erring, and wonderful, easy to them that know, little, light, delightful, and near, understand it more ingeniously. And it is subtle, judging thus, when their minds have been clarified by the books left by the Greeks, for naught is hidden save its preparation, which is harder than all. This it is which gleameth in the elixir, that here the tincture beginneth from potency, that is, from matter potent and most apt to such a form, and advanceth unto act, that is, unto the form of gold and silver, to which it was in potency. For into such a kind of metal the humor is congealed, whose fume and vapor it is, for like is not generated save of its like by nature. Then the author inveigheth against the vain workmen of this art, who have neither the root nor, at the least, the preparations, saying, every preparation is good for its own thing, save this hidden preparation of the philosophers. But they themselves have laid a prohibition upon it in their very doing, for they are ever preparing and never prosper. For, as Maureenus saith to the king, know that earth, or stone, or egg, or blood, or vinegar, or all those things, such as sulfur, quicksilver, orpiment, are false and unprofitable for this magistery, having an evil end. And men oft take all these, and cook, and out of their decoction draw forth, and that which is drawn they oft apply, and after their opinion believe they do well. And that their error may be the more confirmed, and they despair not, they hope to find what they cannot. And of the making of false books the elder saith, he composed his book, thinking he had understood that hidden mystery, and he neither knoweth nor understandeth one letter of those things which he hath set down in his book, being far from the books of the philosophers. And if he be questioned of them, he answereth by likenesses, and if he be pressed, he defendeth himself with cavils and vain similitudes. It followeth, in the thing established, that is, in the firm root of the art, their preparation is unknown, for they have no being, or if they have a root, they have not its preparation, and therefore they know it not. Every mind that followeth conscience, that is, its own vain opinion, floweth, that is tossed, and wandereth through diverse erroneous ways, so that at last they say, we prepared it with every preparation, and we attained not, and we wrought with knowledge, and with preparations we labored wisely. And therefore are they more foolish than fools, for they prepare that which hath no tincture in itself, of all things that tend to nothing and to an end, and they think they do well, and gain nothing but labors. And hence are they puffed up concerning the possibility of the art, and are blinded from the truth. The ancient wise men said, this author derideth the pride of the alchemists of the philosophers who work in filthy things. The ancient said of such an operation, it is a goat, that is, proud and more stinking than a he-goat, for out of the oils of hair, and of ordure, and of menstrual blood, and of many such foul combustibles they labor, and know not the roots of the science nor its preparations. Vile men, they know not that they deceive to the shame of it. Such a workman is fit, so judgeth the contemplative, that is, the philosopher, and the seer, that is, the prophet, that when he thrusteth himself into such a science, he is fitter to plough, that is, to feed with camels, fit for rustic or herdsman's work, than for this philosophy, which hath its being from God by inspiration to the humble and just. It followeth, proud then is this goat, in that he is called knowing and yet is not. To some it is more worth to seem wise than to be and not seem, as is said in the ALCHEMY. So doth this man pride himself, that he is believed and called wise and learned, and that every learned man who seeketh the thing erreth in him. The vulgar, that is, the common operator, having the eyes of the mind shut, that is, clouded, sleepeth, that is, dreameth, for he hath fantastical and vain imaginations in vain matters. Whose beard, that is, the vessel of his work, befitteth boys, that is, the play of children. For it is said in the elder, the profit thou intendest is only with the lords of the beard, that is, of the houses. And again he saith that their begetting is in the beard, that is, in the house of houses. Or it may be another taunt thus, the ancient wise, as a sign of maturity, went bearded, whose beard, that is, their wisdom, sooteth boys, that is, fools. Or take it by similitude, that such lying men mock men as boys pull the beards of sleepers, mocking them. It followeth, if they have the thing, that is, the root of the science, they find not its preparation, and the thing of the art is not perfected save with the preparation. And this it is which they seek, and every opinion of theirs, besides that, is false. They have drawn the ignorant with little cords, that is, by deceits and their vain demonstrations. For in appearance they change the moon into copper, and gold into another fantastical color, and when they come into the fire, they return into the form of sun and moon as before, and the ignorant believe they have made them gold and silver. Or they make amalgams of sun and moon with mercury, and promise to tinge mercury and to coagulate it into sun and moon, and by immature gold and silver their distillations draw the ignorant and deceive them. It followeth, the ignorant sow colocynth, and hope to eat honey thereof, but when they see not what they hoped, they return to their fancy, and extend, that is, magnify and strengthen, their error, and say that this is of ill fortune. Likewise these men with hair and urine, and those with dung, and those with eggs and the bellies of shells, and with blood, these things they bring forth, and sow as the roots of gold and silver, wherein is no proportion, nor even the least potency toward them, and they repeat their operations, insisting in diverse ways, and yet never profit, saying, this is by our ill fortune, not by the matter of vain things nor by their false operations. The temples, that is, the bodies of the vulgar alchemists, which seem to be the temple of the greater wisdom, are trimmed, that is, tricked out with garments, so are their places of the art of sulfur and arsenic, and their decoctions, and their pigments and urines. And if their places be of eggshells, and of dung, and of hair, and of many things wherewith they defile themselves, wherefore we say they are goats, who with stench climb the mountains by byways, so do these men philosophize, composing stinking books wherein is no profit, save the loss of time and expense, whereof they boast. Then inquisitively the author asketh, by what matter, that is, for what cause, it hath been said by these doctors to labor now in this, now in that, in the skulls, that is, in the bones of the head, and in flesh, brain, hair, and in the eggs of hens and of scorpions, and in urines, and in the shells of tortoises, that is, of shellfish, whereas the truth is without diversity in one thing, and one disposition, and one cooking, namely, of decoction. Whence moreonis to the king, this whole mystery standeth in one thing and one way, and is perfected by a single disposition. And the author answereth his own question, saying, Is not this spoken from the scantiness of equity, of understanding, of the ignorant and the blamed? And he reproveth them by a certain question and its manifest answer, saying, If thou shouldst say that an egg hath brought forth men, or that grains of wheat will bear galls, or that the palm hath borne pomegranates, or that the birds of the heaven have brought forth the fishes of the waters, they would answer, Thou sayest false. Then he solveth, either things beget not save their likes, or things bring not forth save their own fruits. Would they not be turned back unto their ignorance? They have said that the father of gold and silver is an animal of earth and sea, or a man, that is, a part of man, as hair, blood, menses, secondine. And some have said in trees, that is, in plants and herbs. And some in stones, as arsenics and other minerals. They are estranged from the truth of the science by these errors, by believing in uncertain things, and they have removed from themselves the praiseworthy marks, that is, the desired, even the station of science, that is, stable knowledge, and its ore. For its thing is manifest before the eyes of upright men and women, of those that have just eyes, some books read masculine eyes, i.e., bold and roving, which also are known by the eyes of more perfect men. So also in the books and in the understandings of men and women knowing this science by their prophets, whose understanding none of them dare openly to unfold. The manifest matter, upon which a wandering mind and unstable wit sit in wandering things, not fixed, is treated many ways, whereas the truth of the art is without diversity. The proof that it is without diversity is that it is one thing. Wherefore the elder saith below of the stone of the art, Water is not glued save with a sulfur like unto itself, nor is it joined save to something like its sulfur, save in that which is of it, namely the sun, which is of the white watery moist. And Hermes, it sooteth not, the water, save that which is nearest unto it by its own nature. And generally, no offspring is like unto that of which it is not. But the humidity is like by its nature, and is of the moon's dominion, and the fatness is of the sun's dominion. And the elder addeth, the stone of the wise is perfected of itself and in itself. It is as a tree, whose branches and leaves and flowers and fruits are of it, and by it, and unto it, and it is the whole, and not another thing. And he subjoineth, in like manner I say unto you, that every other thing is not generated save with that which is of it, and with its own species, which is homogeneous to it. Likewise Adam and Eve and the whole race of men. Therefore everything agreeth with its like and near, according to its species, and likewise flesh is begotten of flesh, and the tincture of metals in metals. And he addeth, Begin therefore in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and know its nature, for it is from the root of its matter, which is in the same and of the same, nor doth any other thing enter upon it. And its root is mercury. Likewise mercury is of it, and this is that of which it is extracted, and is in it, and of it, and by it. All these signify their stone, which is one, that is, singular, and it cannot be but that the same words be often found, for the sake of exposition, declaration, and the testimony of the philosophers. Behold how clearly the philosophers speak, and the ignorant bend awry the eyes of their mind from it. And Geber saith, It behoveth the craftsman to be of constant will, nor let him presume to attempt this with a little now and then, for in a multitude of things our art is not perfected. For there is one stone, one medicine, in which the whole magistery consisteth, to which we add not any strange thing, neither diminish, save that in the preparation we remove the superfluous, to wit, the cold and the moist, which blacken the work and destroy it. The wise have delivered the doctrine fully, showing it as they were able, but fools have not understood. It followeth, by God, if thou consider the stars, that is, the wandering planets, that is, the bodies of metals, there is no difference among us philosophers in that which they opine, for out of these metals, and by them, they prepare their stone, in which is mercury and sulfur fixed, uncombustible, rectified by nature. And therefore our preparation saith by bolts and keys opening the locks, that is, the hidden problems. By God, if the same preparation of the wise be put forth into the hand, that is, into manual operation, it returneth not empty, but enriched with treasure incomparable. Yet for worldly men, that is, such as without the true preparation assume it by false understanding and erroneous assignment, the hand returneth wholly empty. And the preparation of the ignorant, persisting in the art, doth annul the labor therein, nor doth it know, nor hath it the fruit of the art, nor the keys nor the locks, that is, the problems of the wise, nor even knoweth it that the coagulant sendeth forth the tincture, nor attaineth it unto the fruit. But this our preparation of the wise is of the kind of stones, having the labors of solution. And whatsoever it figureth of two things, namely, of the metallic humidity of the two luminaries, without aught extraneous, of the same is it fixed, or is fixed by its own kind. Whence Hermes, 3 faces in one part one beheld. And he said well, that of one they are, though they have elemental parts, as water and earth, fire and air, yet are all these so mightily complexional, that the least of one element is with the least of the other, so that by no artifice could they be separated, by reason of their most strong composition. Whence the author addeth, a part in science without parts, that is, without diversity, and the whole was made one of one, because all is of it, and not of another. As the tailor, out of the same cloth, fashioneth diverse parts, as folds and sleeves, gores and the breastpiece, of which the principal matter is cloth, and the weaver, with the same threads, composeth the cloth, of which is the warp, even so this magistery is one of itself, nor needeth it aught else, as is said in Morienus. It followeth, let the intellectual eyes receive from the figures of the senior, when thou regardest the science unto its roots with branches separated, with the doubled conjunction and binding of the two birds, in the cause how one is hindered by the other from ascent. And one is without feathers, by reason of the weight of earth, namely of earth, but water hath feathers. And the worm is sulfur, and the restraint of the other, and they are 2 quicksilvers. And he addeth, this is red sulfur, that is, water, which hath no end in its operation, for it tincteth into infinity. And the names and surnames, that is, the multiplicity of names in this art, blind the seers in their books, whence the sciences of error are examined, blinded by the multitude of names, whereas this our sulfur, or this our water, is tincted and tincting. This sulfur is that which endureth over every fire, the seed in the tree of olives and others, and when it draweth near unto the fire of beasts, ever enduring, it is venom, that is, the ichor of bodies. In it is all venom, that is, every joyous medicine, correcting every disease of bodies and of men and of metals. This sulfur is as it were lunar, having brightness solar. From it, that is, from the sulfur, are cut away the other feathers and wings, that is, the spirits, and its spirit is abiding, not departing, that is, fixed. To the higher things its soul fleeth, by reason of its likeness, that is, the metallic humidity, conform and only begotten to the red sulfur. Then the fixed lamp with that which hath wings, and with the lunar lamp, ascendeth into the star, that is, into the term. From it ascendeth its soul and is exalted into heaven, that is, into spirit, and it becometh the rising sun, that is, red, in the waxing moon, into solar nature. And then the lamp of the 2 luminaries, that is, the water of life, returneth unto that whence it arose, namely into the earth, and it quickeneth, and is humbled, and putrefieth. And it is the figure of lovers, that is, the sulphur of earth. Therefore dispense the two luminaries, which are water of two bodies and natures. Or thus, dispense the two luminaries, namely the sun and the moon, and both readings are good, yet the second is the better. And that water became one, having in itself the two lights, as we see the sun with two rays in figure signifying the conjunction of the two luminaries shining upon the dead ashes and raining thereon, and that which had been given over unto death is revived, as after great want, when the dead is, that is, impoverished, he shall rise again. To this like another said, If I ascend naked into heaven, and clothed I shall come down into the earth, I shall fulfill every oar. This is the sister, and this is the brother, that is, male and female are of one kind. They hardened the water, and laid the male and female in water, and the whole in earth, and yet by the subtlety of preparation, that is, by fire equal, gentle, not exceeding the celestial heat, they fixed them. But after conception was made, they made it to fly, that is, the begotten, and they were in the houses of the mountains, that is, the souls of the parents, which signifieth the waxing moon, the greater luminary waxing. And it signifieth two birds therefrom, that is, two spirits or two souls of the two luminaries, of the air. For as Morinus saith, this work is likened unto the creation of man, for first is coitus, then conception, then impregnation, afterwards birth, and lastly nourishment. And among other things Marcus saith, they conceive in baths, he meaneth the slow and moist heat of baths, wherein the stone sweats in the beginning of its dissolution by little and little, and they bring forth in the air, he meaneth in the upper chamber, namely of the alembic, because the generation of this tincture is in the air of the alembic, above. And they walk upon the sea, and abide in their mountains and sepulchres. And he addeth, and they cast seed upon the marble of images, and into the water like unto them deified, and there come flying ravens, and fall upon that image, he intendeth the blackness which cometh by the two ears, by ravens. Then they flew upon the tops of the mountains, unto which no man may ascend, that is, into the upper part of the alembic shut on every side, and there they are whitened. Behold then its first preparation, and when thou knowest this, which is the extraction of the spirits all from the body, and their cleansing in their water. Behold the sun, and the two suns, that is, the sun with one ray, and with two rays. And this is the last preparation, namely, of the spirits with their body, with grinding and roasting oft repeated, until thou see therein that which thou seekest. And he saith that the second and last preparation is of three, namely, saltings or earths, the earth of leaves, the earth of pearls, and the third earth of gold, or of three, that is, the trinity of the stone. And these are three compositions of the red stone having brightness. Gloss, Gratianus saith, there are four elements, and a triple mineral of the elements. In the vegetable, partly in the earth according to the root, partly above the earth according to the herb. And the animal wholly above the earth walking. According to Morinus, the earths are three earths of this art. The first is the preparation of the water of life after the putrefaction of the body. The second third is the second whitening. The third is the conjunction of the soul with the body. Or, according to the senior, the three earths are, of leaves, of pearls, and of gold. The four are elements, because hot, cold, moist and dry are in the earth, and the fifth essence, neither hot, nor cold, nor moist, nor dry, but the mean of them. And this already before hath been expounded concerning the number of the principles of the art. For some say 1, some 2, some 3, some 4, some 5, and all speak well. These are not driven one against the other, but willingly rejoice together, because they are homogeneous, whence nature rejoiceth in nature, nature conteneth nature, and nature overcometh nature. The third is of two principal bodies, and the triple water, of air and fire and the nature of water, and all are one, because they are of one. And the sun simple, and the two suns, that is, with two rays broken, ascend no more into earth, but are fixed in it. The triple is of soul, having projection tincting, the soul of the sun, the soul of the moon, and the tincture of sulphur, white, moist. And they are one of the same, the virtue of the superior, namely of the water of life, that is, of the tincture, and the virtue of the inferior, namely of the earth, are together of like nature, because they are begotten and corrupted by the same generation. But their corruption is good, that is, their putrefaction, which disposeth all generative nature into the better. For as Maureenus saith to the point, all the strength of this magistery is not save after putrefaction, for never was anything imitated, or born, save after putrefaction. For if it be not putrid, it is not melted nor dissolved, and if it be not dissolved, it returneth to nothing. It followeth, Hermes saith, a crown is made of the residue, that is, of the relics of this divine water, which leaveth not the matter, that is, the earth fixed and ratified, in which are the darknesses, that is, the blackness. The second, namely in the second work, by means of what remaineth of this water for imbibitions, shall be most highly whitened, and this is what he saith, to wit, that it quickeneth it, namely the earth, slaying it, that is, as a rain humour, and it quickeneth 2/3 of the earth, namely the white and the red, and the third of the third is burnt. He marketh the 3 soils to be enlivened, the earth of leaves, the earth of pearls, and the earth of gold. And the first third is burnt, because the flowers of the tincture, that is, the souls, are drawn out, when that pure water is gathered into that earth, as Anaxagoras saith in the 4th book, the spirit of all the elements is coagulated in earth. So we see its image painted in the sun with 2 rays of the planets upon the earth. But that which remained of the tincture gathered in the earth is not in the open, that is, it appeareth not as it was before the preparation, lest we see many more to be in the hands of children, but let it be an inappreciable treasure of the wise. For, as Socrates saith, the disposition of the work is a children's game, that is, before the preparation, but in the preparation, it is leisure and women's work, to wit, cooking. Whence a certain philosopher saith that this stone boys carry in their hands, whose is the silence after the clamors. And in these sayings of the philosophers there is a lock, and a lock set within a lock, that is, obscurity darkened with obscurity, for the type and figure and trope, one key and one only of them, because one way, one disposition, one act. Next he setteth in his verse 3 things, namely the 1/2 of the moon, together with the sun, to that is, to the equal moisture. This is cast down, by ignorance, that is, hidden, namely that which is in that stone from the operations, for they have hidden nothing save its preparation. Wherefore, in ignorance, no operation is taken, for the master is bound to know the passive working, that is, not to make it known to the unworthy. God, the protector of man, knoweth whom he willeth to inspire and from whom he willeth to hide it. Match therefore the figures to the exposition, for we have no image save the painted tablet of the senior, and he that hath consideration and discretion shall see this more clearly than the sun shining, with justice and not with injustice, in disputation. Note what Maureenus saith to the king in his dialogue, if the sages who were after the ancient philosophers and prophets had not found their expositions concerning the quality of the vessel in which they wrought, posterity had never reached the perfection of this magistery. Therefore commit to memory the quality of the vessel. Gratianus saith, in the 1st degree, metal vessels are expedient, in the 2nd degree, glass, in the 3rd, earthen. That is, in the first work let the vessel be metallic, fearing not the coagulation, in the fixation, earthen. Let the form of all be spherical below, up to the middle of a half moon, and its height according to the quantity of the matter. Some of the ancients perfected in glass vessels, but such glass is not with us, unless like be found. Some of the ancients finished the whole work in an earthen vessel. Thus Zeno, the vessel ought to be of stone, millstone-like, strong, not porous, well baked, such as the glassmakers have, wherein glasses melt. For this vessel, which endureth them 6 weeks, will well endure in the art 6 years, for the art hath not an excessive heat, but a spiritual glaze which melteth not in the fire like the common clay glue of potters, it resisteth the fire, being of strong composition, and dense, not porous. Nor can the vessel of the art be made of any other stone, for another stone would not abide in the fire, but would be turned to ashes, a few excepted. Therefore it must be of baked stone. Thus make thou such a vessel. Take the said clay, and dry it, then grind it, cast out water and little stones and foreign earth, and whatsoever is of another nature in or from it. Then burn almost the half thereof with a great fire or with stone, which half grind very small with the mill and sift, and with this ground part make a clay in the place of sand, mixing well that it be sufficiently tenacious, and of this fashion the vessel, and bake it in the fire, and suffer it to be vitrified within with a strong man, that it be not rent. Nor ought it to be glazed with lead glass, but with ash, and let a cover be made of the same kind, without a vent hole. For it is a vessel which is neither cucurbit nor alembic, verily a vessel of 2 stones of one kind, as Caled son of Ised saith. Note that no metal is expedient for our vessel save clear, well-tempered iron, no other would endure. For our water will not mingle with iron, i.e., it doth not corrode it. Wherefore Rhasis in the Book of Lights saith, if it be sublimed in iron, it conferreth safety. And earlier he said that no instrument can be devised more compendious, saying, the chiefest administration for distilling, and among the rest the most compendious vessel, requireth iron made of the most limpid matter, and herein it excelleth glass, that it cannot be broken. And in this vessel the first work may be briefly ended, for over the lamp's fire putrefaction and solution of the body will quickly be accomplished. And as hath been said among the experienced, one vessel only is required, but among seekers, many are prepared severally, and in one of the rest the thing is tried and examined. Yet then note, they ought not to be of the same thickness, nor so much matter in the one as in the other, and set them so that the fire work equally upon them, and that the exposure be equal in the furnace, so that they rise 4 fingers or a little more, and hang within evenly, and let the flames serve them equally. If the vessel be glass, let there be placed equally, for the one as for the other, a bed of the former clay and mud. Make the furnace of the common potter's clay, commonly 3 fingers thick, and of the height of a man's forearm, and of a good palm in breadth, so that the flame of the fire touch not the bottom of the vessel, and that it freely give heat equally to all parts, having also breathings of 3 or 4 holes. Let the furnace be lifted evenly, and in the top, beneath, place a wheel of good clay of 2 fingers thickness or somewhat more, which shall have in the midst 1 hole or 2. And note that not all be at once put into preparation, as among the expert, rather let part be tried, that thou err not in the hole, or 2, wherein thy vessels shall hang. And it is good caution that thou increase not the degrees of fire double those before, as Nodanus teacheth, but by the half, that is, in the first degree let there be 1 pound, i.e., 1 measure, in the second 1.5 pounds, and c. For by a gentle fire thou wilt not mar, but by excessive thou wilt corrupt, albeit by a slow fire things be longer cooked than by a sharp. It is more tolerable, under moderation, to prolong, than under excess to sin irrecoverably. Note also with what portions of the vinegar the rebis is dissolved into water, but it is dried more at length, and figured. And this is the common manner and doctrine of the philosophers. The experienced pour on water so that it stand above by 3 fingers, as seemed good to them. If 7 parts, or fewer about that, be taken, the body of brass, i.e., our metal, is more slowly dissolved, for 9 parts do more than 6 or 7, yet fewer dry sooner than more, and figure sooner. And whatsoever virtue can in one operation, the double virtue can in shorter time, saith the philosopher, so the proportion of agent to patient be rightly kept. For bringing it to perfection, one book readeth, it hath 21 days, another, 61 days. Let there be days for solution, first let it be brought forth in 13 days, for the complement, 40 days, according as nature and the fire shall teach thee. Follow its nature according to the signs and keys delivered, and they will not suffer thee to err. For it knoweth the battle of water and fire, the length of cooking, as Assiduous saith, until it be made manifest to the sight, so that the imitation of the very work may teach thee to work. For it is the straightest rule and form of this art. Let therefore the stone be taken moist and white, well fermented, and let it be washed with 1/3 of the 9, and let it putrefy by little and little, part after part, until it be whitened in 150 days, that is, in 21 days of the vinum named, and this according to the senior. For he saith, the first illuminating work is to wash, to whiten, and to putrefy in 150 days, and this is the most perfect whitening, the flight of the darkness from it. And perchance the whiteness shall appear in 70 days, that is, 10 weeks and 2 days, or in 4 weeks universally. But he addeth, this is not approved among them, the first is better, because it signifieth the temperance and goodness of the fire, the second and the third denote the intention, overeagerness, of the fire and the corruption of the work. Note that Morinus willeth the same, that the whiteness, which is the first work and the foundation of the redness, be achieved in 21 days and 2 days, the last being sudden, with strong fire given, and so they will be 23 days, as the senior saith. And Morinus teacheth to imbibe with a 4th part in the first exposition, until the tinctures be brought down to the 8th part, that is, into the 3rd. Likewise Antonius in the Taba saith, quench a 3rd part of the heat, that is, let there be of the vinegar, if it be 24, and of the same vinegar, and with the 4th part roast for 3 days, he common death. And let there be roastings, and again further with a 4th part, until it become white and fixed, for 2 days sudden, administering a stronger fire. These two, therefore, agree in the work. Rhasis hath the same intent, 7 roastings, and in the meantime roast and moisten until it become white and fly not the fire, and then with its own water dissolve, and coagulate, and tinge. And he saith, in 3 days let there be 1 distillation, and the most right and perfect coction. And he addeth, though we command to hold it 3 days, a day or part of a day sufficeth, and when in the work the tincture is complete, it is said to have fulfilled the number of days of inhumation, yet the space of 21 days accomplisheth the promised transmutation and cooking. And this 3rd philosopher agreeth with the aforesaid. And note, if 1/3 be completed in so many days, the 2 remaining thirds shall be completed in double time, that is, in 42 days. And this saith Mundus, and Antonius, and Zeno, and many philosophers, so that on the 8th day the whole work is ended, because the coction is 21 days, as Hermes and many others say, and the earth is whitened in the other 21 days. And in the allegories, the soul is boiled 40 days, as the seed abideth in the womb, and thus the purpose shall rise again. And the same road is unto the red as unto the white, save that first it must be completely and fixedly whitened, which whitening is the foundation of the second work, and the first work, namely the extraction of the tinctures, serveth these 2 works, which are 1 work. And if it be not fixed after the whitening, let the coction be repeated until so it come to pass, with a stronger fire, for that which hath once been fixed shall come back fixed. And albeit these philosophers of spirit, briefer than others, have set a short term for the whitening, yet commonly the philosophers in the Taba have bidden that both works be ruled 40 days. Mundus teacheth to rule first for 40 days, and when all the water hath been imbibed, again he teacheth for 40 days that the spirit be incorporated, and with the body be made spiritual. The same method, Panophilus teaches, to whiten in 40 days. And Theophilus says that the glutton of the wise, our bronze, liquefies and, as it were, turns into flowing water, because we must reduce it into thin foils. Then, cook with the poison at 7, in 2 sevens, to 7, that is, for 21 days, as it is said in the Taba's riddles. And because, according to Panophilus in the Taba, the first blackness does not endure unless for 40 days, Theophilus subjoins, and in its own water it is cooked for 42 days, then openly thou shalt live, the work, and thou shalt find the bronze turned into quicksilver. Therefore dividing this water into 2 equal parts, cook 1 part for 40 days until it become a white flour, like the flour of salt in its brightness and coruscation, and again he teaches that the other part be cooked until it become saffron-colored, and until by coction and by water it be converted, and become something like pomegranate syrup. Likewise Belus says there is a closer kinship between bronze and the water than between magnet and iron, and bids the successors cook the living water, which is the male power, together with the body, until it melt like flexible water, and he teaches to divide the water into 2 parts, the first half to be used for liquefying and cooking, the second half for cleansing what has been burned and its companion, those 2 together being made to imbibe 7 times, until they are cleansed of every admixture and become earth. And he adds, know that in 40 days the whole of it is turned into earth. Similarly Victimerus says, divide the water into 2 parts, with 1 part the bronze must be burned, for that bronze, cast into that water, is called the seed of gold. Then with the remaining water the vessel must be moistened 7 times, until all the water, with all the moisture dried out, be turned into dry earth. Then set the matter upon a kindled fire for 40 days, until it putrefy and its colors appear. Bonellus likewise says, divide the water into 2 parts, with the 1 part burn the body, that is, whiten it, according to Lucas in the Tubba, who says, to burn, is, to whiten, with the other part putrefy. Know that the whole regimen is nothing but in the water. Take therefore our bronze and, together with the first part of its water, set it in the vessel and cook for 41 days, and cleanse it from every impurity, and cook until its days are completed and the stone become devoid of moisture. Then cook until nothing remains save what is fixed. Then cleanse, wash the waters 7 times, when the water is spent, leave it to putrefy in its vessel until the desired purpose appear to you, and beware of making it to be separated from the waters, lest it be infected and perish, that, which is in the vessel. And before all these, near the beginning of this chapter, Bonellus says, cook all things over a gentle fire, until all that are in the vessel become waters. For when heat comes to it, by God's ordinance they become waters. Therefore, seeing that blackness in the mineral water, know that the body is already liquefied, then set it in its vessel and cook for 40 days, until it drink the humors of vinegar and honey. And indeed they cleanse it every 7 days, or when 10 nights are past, in which the water appears pure, until the 40 days are fulfilled. Then truly it drinks the decoction of love. Again wash it and deprive it of blackness until it become earth and the moisture perish, and the stone be dry to the touch. Likewise Ephesius says, I command that the whitening be by the cooking of ethelia, the subtle water, by grinding and imbibing, by most frequent handling of the bronze, but do not pour in the water all at once, lest the lye be drowned. Let therefore the humors dry, and the matter, turned into powder, leave it 40 days until the colors described by the philosophers appear. And Pandulphus bids to cook until all be black, the blackness lasts 40 days, then to imbibe in fixed alum and saffron for 40 days, until the 3rd part be consumed. Likewise Athenius bids 42 days, and again he says that from the 10th day of September unto the 10th day of Libra the 2nd work is done. The senior however wills that the whitening be prolonged even beyond 150 days. And similarly Rhasis, but Morinus first teaches that complete whitening be achieved in 21 days, saying, O king, if thou behold in it the white made firm, though thou hadst sold thy whole kingdom and men, this work would not be compensated. Rhasis, in the Book of Lights, speaks of the governance of the work thus, at length in summer it suits alternately and proportionately, that it neither flee the fire nor emit smoke. And shortly after he delivers the regimen thus, he says the inhumation is completed in 21 continuous days, whence, if 21 days be spent, it will be needful to bestow the same foulness beforehand and afterwards. As Rhasis says in the Book of Lights, it seems most necessary to the craftsman to search, to esteem, to love, nor will it weary thee to spend any time in these. But he to whom these 3 fail shall not be enriched by the delights of books. Whence by searching I learned in 2 ways the completion of the work, the first way, in a glass vessel, without the grinding of hands, as in the first and the last, so also in my work, by the ministry of fire and water alone. As it dissolves itself, so it couples itself, it grows white and is adorned with redness, it makes itself saffron, and black, it betroths itself, and from itself it receives, until it hasten the end of the work. For in the riddles it is said, the stone with its own javelin slays itself, macerates and espouses itself, and reddens itself, dissolves and coagulates itself, fixes and imbibes itself, and the soul prepares the body and the body prepares the soul. Nor, as my instructor said to me, shalt thou see the whiteness until the whole body shall have been coagulated by self-imbibition, nor by separating the water from it, neither a third nor a half, since the disposition is not by human hands, as Morinus says, but by fire and water where they suffice. And these have the regimen, that when the whiteness shall appear, they proceed by 6 grades of fire, as the philosophers have described, and those who follow approve this way. First Morinus said, King Khalid, since this disposition is not wrought by the hands of men, what is that disposition which perfects the whole magistery? The master answered him, this disposition is the change of natures, the marvelous coupling of hot with cold, and moist with dry. According to which the wise man says, Azoth and fire wash and cleanse laden, and its obscurity is utterly taken from it, for if thou dispose aright the measure of the fire, Azoth and fire in this disposition suffice thee for the widening of laden and its perfection. And this disposition is the extraction of water and earth, and the casting of its water over its earth, until that earth be wholly soaked. And this water with the earth putrefies and is cleansed, which, once cleansed, the whole magistery is directed with God's help. For then it lacks stench and stubbornness, and with every humility is white and shining, and able to receive the tincture. Likewise Gratianus, we cannot work with our hands upon mercury, but with 10 species which we call our hands, in this work of ours, that is, 9 parts of water and the 10th of earth. Likewise Theophilus in the Tuba, take white magnesia and, mixed with masculine quicksilver, convert it by cooking in fire, and not by hands, until it become a thin water. For then it grindeth itself, until by coction and by water it be ground and become like pomegranate syrup. Yet this philosopher would have the water divided into 2 parts, by one to whiten, by the other to redden, and perchance he marks the 2 works, the white and the red, for when it is white, coldness and moisture endure. And as Bela says, the body is 3 times cleansed by means of the water from every defilement and is divided and becomes earth, saying, bring it about that in 40 days the whole is turned into earth. Whence he subjoins, by cooking, melt it until it become water, then resolve the waters until it be as melted coin, then cook until it be coagulated and become like tin, cook it again, and with the remaining water imbibe until the purpose be found. Those who in the same manner say to divide the water, that is, the matter, into 2 works, the white and the red, deliver the sage's sophism and not a manifest word. Likewise Locust says, divide the water into 2 parts, with 1 part the lead is made to melt like water, and cook until it be dried and become earth. Then retain the water kept aside until it put on the red color. But he subjoins, those who wish to congeal quicksilver, let them do so, with its mystic body. Then cook until both be a permanent water, then cook that water until it be coagulated. And these waters, when dried with their like, because in the veins quicksilver now of itself begins to coagulate, set it in its vessel and cook until it be well boiled down and become saffron, like to the golden color. And, according to Gregory, after the brightness that flashes, govern it until it become red, and when ye see this, cook until it become gold. Then repeat, and let it become the Tyrian color of gold. And Baxans, cook until it become black, then white, then red. And Zymen, saying how bodies are turned into non-bodies, says, let Athelia be ground until it become powder. Know that it becometh not powder save by continuous and very strong coction and grinding in fire, and not by hands, with imbibition and putrefaction and solution and exposition and solution of Athelia. Likewise the roasting philosopher, unless ye first make the things like at the beginning of the cooking, without hand grinding, until they become water, ye have not found the work. But most, or all, of these would often imbibe or divide the water, and they say it is not ground all at once, but by succession of water and fire, not by hands. And Bonellus says, truly, let the hand be silvered by true grinding of gold, yet beware of making it to be separated from the waters, lest the poisons come upon you and the things that are in it perish. But Ephistius says the contrary, for he says, I order, however, that it be not poured in all at once, lest the lye be submerged, rather pour little by little, and grind, and dry, and do it many times until the water be finished and dry. He said this because it is not poured, that is, cooked and ground, at once, but successively. For, according to Rhasis, to pour, to cleanse, to flow, to water, to cook, to wash, are the same. Likewise Baxans, alas for you, who understand the sayings of the philosophers and how he divided the work, mixing, cooking, making like, roasting, heating, whitening, grinding, watering the Athelia, making rust, and dyeing. These therefore are many names, yet truly the thing is one, for there is one living water and one coction, as Assiduous says. And straightway, seeing that they seem to pretend one continuous action, he adds, and if the philosophers had known that one grinding and one roasting, or coction, would suffice, they would not have repeated their sayings so much. And therefore be assured that the compound be iterated and cooked continually, and be not slothful nor grow weary of those coctions. For Morinus wills that the fire be continuous and even, lest the greatest loss follow. And he adds that the vessel should adhere immovably to its furnace until the whole time of the cold action of gold be fulfilled. Yet, with a fourth part, mortify and irrigate, taking care that the flame touch not the vessel, for all would turn to ruin. And yet let this divided imbibition be made, and the third water be added, not all at once. And the same, Morinus, says, perhaps to prepare all at once is for the experienced. For Gratianus says, note, if all be prepared at once, it is good for the experienced, yet greater experience for seekers is that each be prepared singly and examined one by the rest. He subjoins, that in every dissolution there is an incorporation of the dissolved with the dissolvent, and there the spirit can become body and the body spirit. And the same Gratianus prepares singly, saying, Mercury, in his whole disposition, is elixir, that is, Mercury tincturing himself, unfixed. In Leo he is elixir, that is, Mercury prepared and separated, and tincturing with a fixed tincture, according to his quantity, yet not to the full. When he is leavened, with the ferment he becomes elixir, that is, Mercury leavened, tincturing and changing inseparably and unto infinity and beyond measure, so that the beginning beareth witness above its own end, which is, calcine, dissolve, coagulate, the uncertain Mercury. Zur is called any medicine that strings, coagulates, Mercury, alchemically prepared upon him. Therefore first draw the oil from the earth, and dissolve in it the medicine that stringeth and coagulath, that is, the earth, and again sublime through the alembic, and calcine, and let the calcination be pressed, true, dry, and dissolve, and distill, and coagulate, and incerate with its own oil, and cast that zur upon fermented mercury, and it is an elixir apt to make elixir. And know for certain that the body is thus dissolved, by falsehood intervening, by reason of metallic humidity, for unless its own body, from which it is drawn, enter into it, etc. Afterwards the same author says, let mercury be taken and set in custodia, between the burning and the burned, and commit it to the sun and the moon, who are the fountains of cold and heat, and to our earth, on account of the germ of fixed and fusible whiteness and redness. Which things he there expounds, speaking of the preparation of the ferment. Note, sublime mercury from the ferment, and dissolve it in the eagle's water, and calcine the red river, and coagulate with it the dissolved mercury, and dry, and set this dry in the fire with the ferment, and calcine the whole, and dissolve again, and again coagulate with it the dissolved mercury, and this is what he means by, the burned and the burning. And elsewhere he says, whiten the laden, which, when you shall have whitened it and by long coction brought it back to its former clarity, you will again have, etc. And then calcine, dissolve, distill, coagulate, and incerate, and thus proceed for a month, and if the result be penetrative, then thou hast come to the end. And for this part all seem to agree, senior, the tuba, the riddles of the turbi, as is clear. Here ends the second part, on the mass of sun and moon. Here begins the third part, the book of 3 words. On the mass of sun and moon. A wondrous work of 3 words, in which the most precious arcanum and gift of God is wholly contained, concerning the precious stone, which is an airy body, volatile, cold and moist, watery and yet adustive. The sheer delight of this secret and of our venerable fellowship constrains me to set forth its exposition, so that those who know so great a mystery, hidden beneath countless problems and withdrawn from the wise and prudent of this world, may rejoice in the gift of the glorious God, an unfailing treasure. I shall expound nothing save the difficulties of the book, fitting to them the testimonies of diverse philosophers and their own glosses, for I have no wish to invent anything beyond the philosophers' sayings. The thing is one, its path is one. And this is the second part of the treatise on the mass of sun and moon, that is, a congruent counsel upon the demonstration of the book of 3 words. The philosophers say, the combination of 2 contraries, cold and moist, which are watery and adustive, do not befriend heat and dryness, for heat and dryness overthrow the cold and moist ruling power. Then this spirit is turned into a most noble body that flees not the fire, runs in the fire like oil, and is a most fair, perpetual tincture. Hence we must learn to reveal its hidden part, namely the hot and dry, and to hide what is manifest, that is, the cold and moist. This hidden part is of the nature of the sun, most worthy and most precious of all hidden things, and the one tincture, singular, there is no other, for it is the permanent water that ever lives, the philosopher's vinegar. Thus mundus in the tuba, our gum is amended by nothing save gold alone. I say our gum is stronger than gold, whoever knows it penetrates what is more precious than gold. Indeed, honor gold with our gum, for without it gold cannot be amended. And therefore the philosophers writing of it tell nothing plainly, for if the common sellers knew it, they would not sell it at so cheap a price. Aristotle says, know that among philosophers it is stronger and higher than all natures, among fools it is most cheap, but we revere it. And if kings knew it, they would not suffer it to come to the poor. Oh, how marvelously nature by this gum turns gold into spirit, and in what wondrous manner it flashes forth and surpasses all. And Pandophylos, I say there is no body worthier and purer than the sun, without it and its shadow, that is, the moon, which of itself is dark, no dying poison is generated. But he who strives for the philosopher's poison without its composer errs entirely, while he who knows how, with the sun and its shadow, to dye the poison, comes to the arcanum called the coin, which, when it becomes red, is called gold. And whoever knows the philosopher's hidden decamber knows the whole work. And the moon is called the sun's shadow when the sun is clothed in the moon's blackness, the color of ink, as the senior says, and it is said of Cabarid that he is the son of fire, because he grew up in fire and does not fear the fire's bound. It is said also from Cana, burning, fire, and Bar, sun, or from Cambar, from Deca, 10, and Barbarous, as though, son of 10 species of the art, namely the 9 pearls and the 10th, art itself, of which exposition has already preceded in the first treatise. Gratianus says that by these 10 species Mercury is taken. And in the senior it is said, the past nor the present can tinge gold save with gold. The author likewise says the most hidden thing, most worthy, is of the sun's nature, the solar spirit, the sun's blood, his tincture. Note, the stone is not adustive passively, for it is not burned, the fire does not corrupt it but betters it, as will be shown. It is called adustive actively, because the sage's sulfur, as Sapia says, burns by a combustion of widening and bettering, for the wise man's combustion is the total widening of the whole. The philosophers sufficiently assure men, saying, our sulfur is not the vulgar sulfur that burns with a combustion of blackness and corruption. Florus says in the Tuba, do you not see that this crucifying heat torments not with harm or corruption, but with profit and consolidation? For if the crucifixion were noxious, it would not be embraced until the changeful colors were drawn from it. And this single water we call sulfur, which also we apply to the red tinctures. As to its incorruption by fire, Geber elegantly declares, our sulfur is of a most strong complexion and of uniform substance, for in it the least parts of earth and the least parts of air, water, and fire are so commingled that no one of them can abandon another in resolution, but each is resolved with each by the strong union of solar heat which they had in the minerals, according to nature's due consent. Likewise, says Geber, quicksilver is a viscous water, generated in the earth's bowels, of subtle, earthy substance, united by a most temperate heat to a total union in the least parts, until the moist is equally tempered by the dry and the dry by the moist. Indeed it shuns a smooth and even surface on account of its watery moisture, yet does not adhere, though it has a viscous moisture, because of a dryness that tempers that moisture and suffers it not to stick. It is friendly and agreeable to the metals, it is the medium for conjoining tinctures, without it no metal can be gilded. And none of the metals sink in quicksilver save the sun, gold. Whence you may draw the greatest secret. It is also figured and is the tincture of redness, of most exuberant reflection and gleaming splendor. It does not depart from the thing mixed, it mingles with gold and shapes through it with the greatest ingenuity, a thing not attained by the craftsman of stiff neck or stone heart. It is also incombustible and incorruptible, for all corruption of metals comes either from a sulfur enclosed within their substance, which, by inflaming, diminishes and utterly destroys the metals, or from a multiplication of the exterior flame, penetrating them and wholly resolving them, as in the calcination of lead, where there is a rarefaction of parts, then the flame can penetrate and destroy. If therefore all causes of the metals' corruption concur, the bodies must needs be corrupted. But quicksilver permits no division into the parts of its corruption, either it withdraws from the fire wholly, or remains wholly standing in it. Nay rather, it is notable as a necessary cause of perfection, for by the good adhesion of its parts and the strength of its complexion and commixture, when its parts are thickened by fire, it no longer permits itself to be corrupted, nor by the ingress of furious flame that would exalt it to the utmost, since it does not suffer rarefaction on account of the density of its composition. Therefore it is weighty. And because it lacks adustion by sulfur, it is not burned. Blessed be the glorious and most high God who created it and gave it a substance and properties of substance such as no other natural thing possesses, and within which the perfection of this work may be found by the art that brings it from proximate potency to act. For this is that which overcomes the fire and is not overcome by it, but rests amicably in it and rejoices. All these things Geber says of mercury, and this is the art sulfur. Hence Plato, all quicksilver is sulfur, but not every sulfur is quicksilver, and all gold is bronze, in genus, but not every bronze is gold. When these two are well regulated, the fire will never separate them, for their natures are alike, and both are of the most temperate and strongest composition. These are the three words of the premised intent, and they are emblematic, after the likeness of the philosopher's embryo. For 3 months water keeps the fetus in the womb, for 3 months air warms it, for as many months fire guards it. When these are completed, the blood that was sustained in the navel, by which the infant was nourished, ascends to the mother's breast. There, after the pangs, it takes on the whiteness of snow. The infant will never find an exit until it has breathed out all its airy vapors. At length it opens the mouth and is suckled. From these words we must, with a keen wit, extract the 2 and the 7 that are understood from them. And the senior, on Hermes' authority, likewise says the same. Know that water serves it in the belly for the first 3 months, then air for 3 months, then fire for the following 3, and cooks it and perfects it. And when the 9 months are complete, the blood by which it was nourished in the womb is cut off and ascends to the woman's breast, there to be as a crown and to become its nourishment after its going forth from the womb. All this is said for the assigning of the stone's preparation, as the ancient sages prepared it. By womb he intends the bottom of the cucurbit, by the seed of man and woman, the moistures of sun and moon, by menstrual blood, the white moist through which the fetus is warmed and formed in the womb of our vessel. By the closed womb, during conception and impregnation, note the sealing of the vessel and the most careful confirmation of the conjunction, lest what is within take inspiration from the air, for there are winds and spirits there, whose exhalation would spoil the nourishing work. By blood that reddens, he means the blackness appearing at the beginning of the work, from which redness of tincture is born. By the ascent of the blood to the mother's breast, note its sublimation to the airs in the upper part of the alembic, where it takes on the whiteness of snow, and then the stone is perfected, which is a humid, aqueous spirit. And Morainus says, yet it is not like other water, but a water found everywhere and of no price, and everlasting, for it is the world's principle. For from water all things were made. Over the water the Spirit of the glorious and most high God was born, and the beginning of man's generation is from it. Of this water the father is the sun, the mother the moon, as Hermes, father of the philosophers, says. And assiduous, whose mother is a virgin and whose father has not known woman, and it is one and the same saying. Assuredly, the sun is the principle of man's generation in the oblique circle. Hence some philosophers teach of this art by the way of nature, of male and female, of hot and moist, and the other natural principles. Others argue arithmetically, of 9 and the 10th part, how 2 and 3 make 6, 1 and 2 and 3. Others astronomically, of sun, moon, and planets, whose light and motion are their cause, who are everywhere and always in power and in every subject, and of no price, because their light and motion are not seen. As from milk the infant's nourishment is wrought after it leaves the womb, so the earth is nourished, enlivened, and grows by this divine water until it suffices to itself. Thus, by the likeness of the seed in the womb, the philosophers teach the preparation of the philosophic mercury. Hence Pythagoras in the Tubba, nor is it without cause compared to the seed of the womb, it is rightly likened thereto, for in its complexion it many times makes colors appear, as the matter is governed in each practitioner's hands. And Bonellus in the Tubba says, know that nothing is generated without a complexion. The seed is generated from blood and desire, and is nourished by the heat and moisture of blood. After 40 days the fetus is formed, and if there were no moisture in the womb, the seed would not dissolve nor would the fetus be begotten. That blood is constituted to nourish the seed until it brings forth the fetus. When it is brought forth, it is nourished only with milk as long as it is little, and the more it is dried by natural heat, the more the bones are strengthened, it is led into youth, and when it comes to old age, it suffices to itself. In like manner must we labor in this work, knowing that nothing is generated without heat, and that excessive heat makes it exhale, while cold destroys, but if the heat be tempered, then it is pleasant to it, and thus the vein is enlivened and the heat wholly increases. And this philosopher most beautifully teaches the fetus's preparation, generation, and nourishment. And Aristotle, in the letter to King Alexander. And know that no offspring is ever born except from a father and a mother. When the infant has exhausted all the spirit of its matter that is required for its organization, it is naturally born, now without its former nourishment. And just as, in 9 months, the infant expels all airy vapors and the menstruum is converted into a milky form, so in 9 months the first work is completed, namely the second whiteness, albedo secunda, by which the whole work is coagulated, though, according to experienced authors, it is resolved around 6 months, according to Bulgus in the Tubba, in 180 days, and according to many philosophers, Rhasis, Assiduous, the senior, and the author in the Tubba, in 20 days, and on the same day and month the taking away of vapor ceases, with its heat dryness is received, leaving no ambiguity or suspicion. As Rhasis says in the Book of Lights, once the body is dead and from it quicksilver has first been extracted in its own water, by which that body is nourished and grows and is revived, it never dies thereafter, because it is an incorruptible tincture sprung from an incorruptible seed by God's providence. And assuredly, this mercury is the common, vulgar, one, yet not coagulated, as just said. Therefore, water keeps the fetus in the womb for 3 months, air warms it for 3 months, fire cooks it for as many months. This is said by likeness for our mercury, because within 6 months, under the philosopher's steady and even fire, water and air, that is, spirit and vapor of brass, are gathered in the philosophic water. Thus mercury is taken, extracted, red in the hidden sense, but outwardly white, and it dissolves strongly in 12 days, and in as many days it lies hidden, coagulating. Mark well the regimen for extracting this mercury, per Avicenna. Heat in a moist body first produces blackness, then it brings it to whiteness, because heat entirely consumes the moisture, and where any remains, the warmth makes it white, as is seen in common heating. So in the first operation all things blacken, in the second they whiten, in the third, with a stronger fire, there must be incineration by composition. Thus in our work, from an abundance of moisture in the body, blackness is generated in the fire. This blackness is called ethyl de ethyl, quicksilver from quicksilver. And Pandulphus in the Tubba, rule it with the white moist, which is a great secret, until it be covered with blackness and that blackness itself be made. The dissolution of the blackness is the lunar moisture and solar fat, than which nothing is more akin or nearer. And according to Hermes, by Pandulphus' experience, this blackness lasts about 40 days, for then there will appear a most noble whiteness, after heat has entirely consumed the moisture and the airy exhalations have been expelled and the body put to death. But fire guards it for as many months, that is, fire completes the whole work, as the author's gloss, the fire first coagulates the dead body, second, incinerates it, and again, dissolved in its own water and ground by trituration, it is worked until all is humid like thick grease, and the water is quenched by that fat. Then distill, coagulate, incinerate. For, as Pandulphus says in the Tubba, know that as often as you imbibe the ash, that is, the incinerated body, and as often as you imbibe with the gums, so often must it be dried and again moistened, until its color is turned into that which is sought. And assiduous, cook it until the water is united and coagulated and it does not flee the fire, meaning a temperate fire, so the compound does not fume away. For the water knows how to fight the fire, and the length of cooking, putrefying, and thickening. Then gird the vessel round with warm dung, the philosopher's moist fire, and for some months make it fly, until the water reddens, thickens, and becomes a dying elixir. For some months, i.e., according to Mundus the philosopher, for 42 days, 6 weeks, or as long as seed abides in the womb until a man is formed from his root. Gloss, to fly, because it ascends and descends in the golden tree, and thus overcomes both the upper and lower virtue until it becomes fixed. And Athanasius in the Tubba says of the same months, cook it in the sun, i.e., under solar heat, which is a continuous, uniform fire, and, in the black earth, for 42 days, and perhaps it will take longer, therefore he explains the time. The second work is completed from the day of September until the 10th of Libra, i.e., in a year. So, interpret, fire keeps it for as many months as the 9 months, or a year, of tempered fire, just as for 9 months the blood descending from the navel is warmed and then rises to the woman's breast where it takes the whiteness of milk, which is the nourishment of the fetus after it leaves the womb. Understand by this that the stone was prepared in this mode, not as a quantity of time, but as the quality, regimen, of the philosophers who nourish their offspring by its own divine water. Thus this spirit is turned into spirit, because it is expounded 2 ways, into a body, i.e., it is coagulated in earth, and the body is turned into spirit, i.e., all is sublimed in the golden tree, or again the body is turned into spirit, i.e., having lost thickness and rigidity, it becomes spiritual. Hence in the Tubba, be certain that when it has lost its thickness, it will become spiritual. And Gratianus says, that the body becomes spirit and the spirit body, understand that body and spirit become one, and when the body, dissolved in a saline seat, dies, it is spiritual. Therefore this body is turned into spirit, i.e., becomes spiritual, i.e., dying, for to die is the office of spirit, and then this spirit is again turned into body, i.e., finally fixed. First by a lunar fixation, then by a solar fixation, by God's power, from whom this wisdom flows to those he wills, and by measured patience moderating the degrees of fire, for there are 4 termini, as will be seen, and this is the length of the 2 and the 7. These are difficult words which I long examined. Note then the tempering of the fire, it must be even in all its degrees, each perfected in itself, as Gratianus says. And this concerns the length of the 2 fires and the 7 degrees of that fire. For from the 3, 2 are understood, not conversely, as the author says, a double fire is found which is of 3 degrees. Gloss, the double fire, that is, the simple, like that for eggs or birds, also the fever-like heat, according to Mercury in the first work, and the second, a graded or doubled fire. And this double fire is of 3 degrees in the first key of the work, and triple in the second key of the work, for there are 2 keys of the art, says the author. The first key is a year, the second key is another year and 7 days, as later authors will prove. And each key has 3 degrees, as will appear later from the testimony of the wise. Or otherwise, these 3 degrees are the sun's 3 phases in the zodiac, first when the sun is in Aries, its exaltation, second in Leo, third in Sagittarius. Gratianus agrees, the artificial heat imitates the natural in 3 grades, first, dissolving in the moist, sun in Aries to Cancer, in the first work, second, aggregating in the moist, sun in Leo, for the whitening of the second work, third, incorporating in the moist, sun entering Sagittarius, where the substantial humidity is calcined. The first degree is weak, the extraction of spirits from the body, leaving the leaf earth. The second degree is smoke, i.e., the second whitening, the pearl earth. The third degree is the look toward the gold earth, i.e., the redness. Thus the author speaks arithmetically of the length of 2 and 7, and astronomically of the sun's triple degree. And Gratianus says, Mercury in every disposition is an elixir, in Leo it is ixer, prepared, in the ferment it is elixir, cerat. So that the beginning testifies over its end, and conversely, calcine, dissolve, distill, coagulate Mercury, and cerate. Mercury becomes three-named in its fitting, first ixer, second ixer, third elixir. Ixer is fusible mercury that dies with an unfixed tincture and does not transmute. Ixer, second sense, is prepared, separated mercury dying with a fixed tincture according to its measure, bringing change, as when in Leo. Elixir is cerat mercury dying and changing inseparably and beyond measure, when the sun enters Sagittarius, in which degree rain falls from heaven into earth and the spirit's colors are changed, i.e., incinerated and fixed and made alive again. Therefore fire is triple, 3 degrees, and double, positive and graded. From the 3, the 2 are understood. From these 3 grades of fire you take 2 fires, simple and doubled. These fires differ. The positive is not graded, for it is not doubled. These 3 degrees are divided into 7 degrees, counting the first as the foundation to which all following fires are graduated. And the 7 fires you may understand from Gratianus, who says mercury must not be placed in any degree of heat unless first it is taken with mercury extracted and fixed, in the ferment of sun and moon, made like into one body. Of whose fitting he says, the body dissolved in the humid, upon the coming of mercury, dissolves it, yet this is not the work of the humid, but a falsity through the humid, by which the body is joined with mercury by reason of the metallic humidity, which is more friendly to the metallic body. Therefore the soul enters its body, and since 2 bodies cannot occupy one place, they sink to the bottom and the pristine water floats above, and this is called the second water, in which simple mercury, vulgar, dissolved does not fall, and this is a good secret, if you know the cause. Note the exposition in Aristotle's letter to Alexander, where he enumerates the species of the art. Know then that fire is sulfur, i.e., the sun. Hence Parmenides in the Tuba, this sea turns gold into red fire. And Gratianus, the tender mercury is wont, with alcabric, the sun, to separate the most rubicund substance, by the service of the olive oil, or by the fat of animals taken from the richest pastures. I will later explain this saying. Therefore sulfur is fire, solar splendor, and the potent spirit is magnesia, the dead body of the 2 luminaries, which has another place than the body of the water, for body and water are set apart, and the supernatant water is mercury, the first water. The second is air, i.e., the body's vapor. And quicksilver is the first water, the flowing body uncovered. But spirit is the second water, in which the lunar moisture and solar fat are joined to mercury by the metallic humidity. Next, all things are nourished, every shoot grows, every light ascends, every fruit ripens. But simple, common, vulgar mercury is not for our work. We use composed mercury, for it coagulates under cold and takes on forms, yet simple mercury lacks the ferment and is useless to us. This is a great secret. Of this composed mercury Animerus in the Tuba says, I warn you, congeal quicksilver compounded from many things, so that 2 and 3 make 1, that is, male and female make the water of life in which are 3, air, fire, water, and for make 1, that is, the 4 elements become 1, and 2 become 1, i.e., spirit and body are joined. Or thus, for make 1, i.e., 4 parts of brass and 1 of sun and moon, 3 become 1, by continuation, as the senior in the Tuba, take 1 part of a sincere, noble, body and 3 of another brass, and mix with vinegar. And Dardaris, 4 coins of the vulgar tinged brass. And I repeat the first word, mercury should not be put to any degree of heat unless first it is taken with mercury extracted and fixed from brass. Hence Rason, if you dissolve the white body so that it becomes quicksilver, its flowers will be extracted, and if goldsmiths knew this, who have business with it, they would profit greatly by it, not by much fire, but by its solution, to convert it back to that whence it had its root. And this is the senior's gloss. But such solution should be only by a simple, gentle fire, like that for eggs or birds, nourished in the first work. Afterwards Gratianus, of the second work and its 6 degrees of fire, says mercury must be led by degrees to fixation. First, its vainness is calcined in the first degree of heat, second, its heat in the second degree, third, its substantial humidity in the third degree. And whatever is calcined must be dissolved in its own way, that it may putrefy, i.e., by grinding, imbibing, and roasting. And so at length all is ground into one, imbibed with one ferment, i.e., wine water, for water is the ferment of water. And again let it be led through 3 degrees of heat, and thus mercury works upon itself. In this way there are 6 degrees of the doubled fire, and the simple fire is the 7th. Gratian, however, sets out only 6 degrees or modes, excluding the 7th and the positive fire. The positive fire is not called a degree, but rather the foundation of the degrees. The author of this work, by contrast, counts 6 degrees of fire including the simple one as first. The reason, the first, positive, fire and the second, which is the first degree, differ only thus: the first fire, namely of the first work, is uniform in beginning, middle, and end, but the first degree of the second work is non-uniform, because at the end it is sharpened, and by this fire the water is coagulated with the body, and the body is made spiritual. How it is non-uniform is clear from many philosophers. Lucas and the Tuba, let the fire be gentle while widening until it coagulates, afterwards make the fire somewhat stronger. Archirachius there likewise, cook it until it is turned into a stone, afterwards cook with a stronger fire until the stone becomes harder, is compacted, and is turned into ash, then imbibe again until it becomes moist, and cook with a stronger fire. And, as said, seal the mouth of the vessel and cook until the whole body is consumed and incinerated. Toward the end of the Tuba the author says, then put it in a glass vessel, leaving it in a dark place until you see the vessel glow and shine like a jacinth. Before proceeding, note by what fire the redness of the first and second work is drawn out. Gratian says, it is not reduced, because we say, the spirit becomes body, understand, fixed, and the body becomes spirit, which is to be taken similarly. So the off-ground tenderness, viscosity, of mercury, as said above, accustomed in the fire with alkebric, the incombustible sulfur, i.e., the sun, remains, for neither fire nor sulfur's wasted, but fire rather improves it, the sun. No, there are 2 sulfurs of the art, a mobile aqueous sulfur, i.e., quicksilver, hence Plato, every quicksilver is sulfur, though not every sulfur is quicksilver, and another sulfur akin to it in nature, i.e., the sun. These 2 sulfurs seek each other like iron the magnet. From that sulfur, gold, you will separate its most reddened, most purple, substance, and Tyrian venom equals the powerful dyeing tincture, with the help of the service of the olive, oil, and the fat of animals from richest pastures. Therefore Maurienus to King Khalid on the fires of the work, above all, keep the fire even, let it neither increase nor diminish. And he adds, the philosopher's fire is such that its matter has living division, its matter is produced from sheep's dung, with olive leaves added, for nothing else compels the fire's combustion to endure equally. Assiduous says the philosopher's fire is a moist fire, i.e., bury and putrefy in horse and ox dung, with the flame of a lamp. He also says, make peace between spirit and body on the fiery bed of putrefaction from things, flowers/substances, that spring from earth, or that air engenders, or are born in the bellies of animals. And elsewhere, of the second work after the water has been coagulated in earth, then wrap the vessel with moist dung, and for some months make it fly, until it becomes Kel's elixir. The senior says putrefaction is the body with the subtle fire of beasts, and they measured and hid this fire. By this fire the frozen water becomes stone, running water becomes quiet, and when it has been prepared it returns to its former form, and is congealed, and kept in patience, and brought back in the preparation. Notably expounding the subtle fire of beasts, the senior adds that the first light, i.e., regimen, of 150 days is better than the second, 120, or third, 70 it must be intense light, but the first must be temperate. Khalid, know also there are fires of many kinds, some fires bring corruption in cooking, it is best to have one kind in cooking. Aristotle to Alexander, beware the material be touched by its own flame, rather liquefy it as melted things are liquefied. Roderius in the Book of 3 Words, in fire alone, without any separation, can be done all distillations, sublimations, calcinations, rubifications, suffusions, with all resolutions and coagulations, until friendship is made between this and that, then it will conquer every solid thing, and oil will run on it before your very eyes. Gratian, the fire in all its degrees must be even until, by the work of fire, the work is perfected. Bonellus in the Tuba, the more days pass, the more strongly it coagulates and is not restrained. By the benefit of the sun, solar fire, it is coagulated and frozen, and that strongest whiteness makes it overcome fire. Theophilus, when the philosophers see the stone turned into blood, they set it in the sun, i.e., a slow, continuous, measured fire, until the viscosity ceases, the blood dries, and then the venom appears and the hidden is made manifest. Hence Rhasis, Book of Lights, when we bid you set it in the sun, we denote illumination or fire. Cassius, rule it with sun and dew until it becomes a stone. Antonius bids to cook it in the sun and black earth, saying, one operation congeals sooner and another slower according to difference of cooking, if the place of cooking is dewy it congeals quicker, if dry then slower, we keep moister fires to finish quicker than drier. Why multiply authorities? One equal fire is owed in all degrees. Fire, therefore, and azoth suffice you in this art. As for wax, oil, and tallow, they are under the sun's dominion, and, from the dew of heaven, in which are many human secrets. Before speaking of the degrees of fire, it must first be known how this spirit is turned into body, and body into spirit. Assiduous, no, my son, among all natures some are more perfect, nothing of the rest is directed without others, the whole is not joined unless the part be in it, nor the part unless the whole be in it, just as earth is melted and turned into air. And he adds how spirit is turned into body, while the work is converted, you say that fire is coagulated and becomes air, air is coagulated and becomes water, water is coagulated and becomes earth. Behold, into one nature the enemies have met, when they are driven together, coagulated, they become friends, when they are rarefied they become enemies, i.e., in the separation of the elements. Therefore examine all in earth, i.e., spiritualize the earth and make it dying, and you have finished. Gratian similarly, in fire let there be light in air, when the moist fails, the splendor fails, meaning, coagulate it like a mirror or a bared sword, from bone make lime, i.e., by drying that shining moisture until it becomes ash, of which Azaratus says, how precious is that ash. The air, where the spirit is, condenses into water within the sealed glass, hence the hissing pellicle evaporates. Pandulphus, seal the mouth of the vessel carefully, lest the flour go out, but let it be joined to its near kin and increase its whiteness. Water becomes earth like glass, i.e., the dryness gathered makes it always harder. He means the coagulation of water into earth. Thus the beginning of this thing bears witness to its end, calcine, dissolve, distill, coagulate, and again calcine and incerate. Socrates, the dead stone is glass made by fire, and its viscosity is such, because the spirit is opened by the virtue of fire. Therefore spirit acts into viscosity, though it cannot perforate, yet spirit, as dyer, penetrates the body, not body into body. Next, earth and fire is salt, that is, earth is calcined into ash, as Pandulphus, as often as you imbibe the ash, so often must it be dried until its color is turned into what is sought. Hence, and afterwards various things happen among themselves. Of this conversion of spirit into body Plato in the Tuba, know, all of you, that every spirit at last rests in earth. The spirit of fire falls into air, that air and the fire into water, and finally what is condensed from the thickness of fire, air, and water falls into earth. Gratian, how body becomes spirit, earth is resolved into water, water into air air into fire, this is the road by which body becomes spirit. This water is hot, fiery, burning, powerful, of stronger heat and adustion than common fire, says the senior, it overcomes it, and so it is said. Parmenides, O nature of heavenly power, multiplying natures. O truly strong, conquering and surpassing natures, making its own natures rejoice. This is the spiritual nature to which God gave the ability that fire cannot bestow. Then, fire by trituration becomes air, air by trituration becomes water, and this is the road by which spirit becomes body. On this conversion Gratian distinguishes, Zur, Ixer, makes Zur only by the benefit of long heat, equally and continuously enduring, then it thus diffuses the ore through various stones, and afterwards is separated from them. He explains, manus, hand, or handling. We cannot work upon mercury with our own hands, but with the 10 species, we call our hands in this art, i.e., 9 parts of white moist and a 10th part of air, fire of our furnace. This weight is universal. But Rhasis assigns 7 parts of earth and 3 of our fire air, as the 10 species by which mercury is taken and fermented. Zur is any medicine that binds mercury, alchemically prepared over it, i.e., the earth of the stone that coagulates the virgin's milk, holds mercury. Hence the method, first extract the oil, mercury, from the earth, its ore, and dissolve in it the medicine that binds and coagulates, the earth dissolved, imbibing and grinding until it becomes like thick grease, and separate the oil by long trituration, 3 days, per Rhasis, and afterwards roast them together until they pass into one nature. And this is what he says, and again sublime by the albificum, i.e., roasting. He says sublime, because, when fire is ministered to it, it rises to a sharp height, its nature is spiritual, therefore it ascends, as appears in the vessel and in the little knotted cover, hence let the fire be light in the coagulation. Then, calcine, dry to ash, and, it remains, that is, it is fixed by express calcination, and again calcine and incerate with its own oil, and cast that zur, i.e., calcined earth, upon fermented mercury, and imbibe the fermented mercury, i.e., the composed one, and let the zur be apt to make elixir. Gloss. Zur equals emancipated/handled, i.e., captured by the hands/species, mercury fixed, extracted from the earth or by the earth. Zur also equals emancipated hand, as if mercury extracted and emancipated in its white body, then it tinges to white, for tinged mercury tinges. Lucas, magnesia, being white, whitens all things. Join it to its kind until it coagulates and is white like snow, roast it until it makes itself into ash. Magnesia, once whitened, does not let the spirits flee nor appear in its shadow. When this is done you have the greatest secret. For sulfur is mingled with sulfur. Enamidius, sulfur is contained by sulfur. Sulfurs flee, unless by the living silver of its own kind, extracted from brass, they are held, do not think they tinge and afterwards flee. Rhasis, Book of Lights, Morienus, and Assiduous want the earth, once whitened and bright, to be fixed, supply, with lunar fixation, but not fixed with solar fixation, therefore it tinges to the moon. And this is the second of the third work, the elixir is called Ablon, the all, and Zur Emancipatus is, the all captured, i.e., fixed, the whole soul, incorporation, and perfect fixation in the length of 2 years and 7 days, according to the author's experience. This is the second gloss on the 2 and 7. And thus natural alchemy is born according to the impression of the planets, as the author wrote, for in this work there is the salvation of the moon, sublimation of lunar moisture, and the circle of the sun, since after extraction there is the triple grade as explained before. Well does he say, the circle of the sun, for after extraction of the solar spirit and the death of its body there follows the restitution of soul and the vivification of body. In this word the author touches the ore of the rebes, already explained sufficiently in the first tract. Let us therefore return to the exposition of the 3 words, in which the whole art consists, namely, water keeps the fetus in the womb for 3 months. Air warms it for 3 months, fire guards it for as many. All this is said of mercury, by the likeness of air in the womb. And a twofold fire is found, which has 3 degrees, and from these 3 are understood 2, i.e., the simple and the graded fire, as explained before. The first degree of fire completes the water and the air, the second, namely, the next degree of fire within fire, completes the whole work, it coagulates, calcines, inserates, and fixes. This is what we said. The stone is twofold, cold and moist. And the mercurial liquor, from the first seed, makes a globe, a sphere, through a fine cloth, expelling whatever of moisture, the second water, it cannot hold, and this once the first work is finished, which is completed by the fire of the first degree. Note, if the globes do not form, it will not float but will sink to the sides of the vessel, nor will it compact by dissolution even for a year if roasted. This has been proven by experience. Then, under the following degrees of fire, that globe takes on flesh, coagulation, and blood, tincture. Hence assiduous, our stone is gold incarnate, and it receives members, its integral parts. He notes the incarnation of the remaining water, and the coagulation and incineration, and again dissolution, distillation, coagulation, and calcination, so that the beginning bears witness to its end and conversely, until all the parts pass into one nature. Afterwards, by the governance of the fire, it receives an image according to its nature, its species, from which its root came, by the Most High God, and it comes to a golden state and will shine with a purple, i.e., Tyrian, hue. Thus in the philosopher's allegories concerning the final regimen, after the whole work has been turned into earth, place it in a glass vessel, leaving it in a dark place. This signifies sealing the vessel, until you see the vessel glow and shine like a jacinth. And this Tyrian color, with which purple is dyed, is drawn out by the fire of 2 and 7 degrees, of which we have spoken and will speak more specifically. Some want this saying understood of the first work. They make a globe and roast it by setting a pan beneath for 3 or 4 hours, in a cloth hanging at the bottom. Then they throw it wholly into the 9-part liquor and cook until it takes its image and its members, that is, until our acetum, our vinegar, has extracted all the lunar moisture and solar fat, which are the tinctures of the air. But it seems to me this deals with the second work, and amalgams are more quickly turned into a mass without handling by our acetum, and it works more strongly on the rebes, because the agent touches the patient more and acts more powerfully on a flat mass than on a compact globe, in which the parts of our vinegar cannot so freely mix. Hence Aristeas, take the body the master selects, making it into plates, then put it into the water of our sea and turn it into its athelia, and cook until it is rid of blackness and whiteness appears. Likewise Bonellus in the tuba, take of the sifted filings, make plates of them, sprinkle them with the poison, the biting water, and place them in a vessel well sealed. And Aristeas and Theophilus say the vessel should be concave to hold 30 pounds, though the master of the work did not quite put in 25 pounds of body, shaped into thin plates, pure, raw, pleasant, and clean. Then he performs the first work, saying, but the seed is akin to this, because copper and mercury are not yet transmuted in coagulation and fixation, just as in the second work they pass into one another. And this stone is single, and there is no other like it in the world, none similar in effect or nature, which impregnates itself, conceives from itself, and bears itself. Afterwards, though living, it dies the red death, etc. In the philosopher's etymologies, our stone kills itself with its own dart, likewise it weds itself, it dissolves itself and coagulates itself and fixes itself and imbibes itself, and the soul prepares the body and the body the soul. After this living thing dies the red death. This can be understood of the living body of copper/bronze, after it becomes red it dies by a red death, i.e., after its moisture and red tincture have been extracted. Or it can be understood of the composed quicksilver already extracted in the first work, after that is dead, calcined, and fixed by the red death, by its fire, by destroying coldness and moisture. Then comes the cure of the dead, that is, of any imperfect body, the dead bodies, lacking tincture, which are the spirit and soul of the living body and of our art. Therefore it is the cure of the imperfect body, since by heat and dryness it tinges and does not flee the fire, nor give off smoke, and flows like wax and is like oil. For dryness in alchemy tinges and does not flee the fire, and with this tincture all the dead, the imperfect metals, are rectified with the true red and white tincture so that they live forever. Next, of the keys, terms, and degrees of fire. The first key and the first term are completed in 12 months, and if it is not completed, at least it will be completed by the end of the fourth term. Hence the author in the text, the first term kills cold and moisture by extracting the souls and the whole spirit, and turns the whole into earth by coagulating and calcining, etc. The second term is the following year. He speaks of the term in general, for the following year has 3 terms. And in this second key of the work, the next term, i.e., the year, completes the death of the first dead thing, our body, whose thickness and rigidity were destroyed in the first term, and it increases the redness and makes a sooty, pitchy mass, and it ascends the tree, curled like the first fruit, as if covered with hoarfrost, and bright shining, and this year makes leaves of gold. This is the rectification of mercury, i.e., the fixed oil which dries all corrupted metals and brings them to health and a better nature. The second term is of 4 months, and if it is not completed then, at least it happens in the third term, also of 4 months, and if still not finished, it will be done in the fourth term, of 4 months and 9 days. Rachi son of Dibais said, at the end of the first term, it will seem founded on the plates, giving neither smoke nor crackle, sign of perfect cooking. If these are lacking, reduce it to the fourth fire. On the fires, the first term is governed by 3 fires. The first fire is its own and weak at the beginning. Let this governance be 6 months. This fire completes water and air, i.e., the spirit in its water, which is the stone alone. Thus mercury extracted is taken, red in effect, and the body is slain. Then, fire guards it for as many, happily 6 months, whose governance is by 2 fires, the second, which is double with respect to the first 3 months, and so the first term and first key are completed. Yet although the author spent a long time extracting the stone's cold and moisture by his experience, Khalid son of Yazid finished the whole coagulation in 13 weeks, in 3 weeks, 21 days, of one name, he completed water and air, read it in his book. This variety comes from the variety of fire. The water should be divided by a median half, and 1 part imbibed for 7 weeks over a tepid fire, and it will reach a higher grade. Then the other remaining part should be imbibed in 6 weeks, and then its substance and heat will shine. The second key likewise is of 12 months and 7 days, and has 3 terms. In the first, rule it with the fourth fire, which is double the third, these are 4 months. This is the second term, 16 months. Then rule with the fifth fire for 4 months, which is double the fourth, this is the third term, 20 months. After this, rule with the sixth fire, double the fifth, for 4 months and 7 days, with the 3 degrees of fire. Assiduous likewise sets a long span. He says that philosophers variously spoke, for 21 days, and 40 days, and 80 days, for 4 months and 7 months, and 1 week, and 3 days, and a part of a day. They added and diminished, I will show you the absolute, its perfection through a year, i.e., by the perfection of the 4 seasons, winter, cold and moist, spring, hidden heat, summer, manifest heat, autumn, manifest dryness. Therefore after autumn you must not cease from the work and begin anew, as if to say, once the matter is dried, it must be fixed and matured in the 2nd year. Note that Maurienus, Rhasis, the senior, and many others finished the first work in 21 days, 3 weeks. Mundus and Pandulphus in 42 days, for blackness does not last more than 40 days. Some in 80 days, Rosinus, Socrates, some in 4 months, some name 21 days as 3 weeks, Rhasis, who also says the first work can be done in just 3 days. And Khalid in 3 weeks, that is, in the philosophers, 3 months, and even in 21 weeks. Some finished the second work in 9 weeks, i.e., months, as is said in the allegories, 40 days, as seed remains in the womb, i.e., 40 weeks. Antonius likewise in a year, some in 7 months, i.e., 28 days, that is, weeks, some in a week, i.e., 70 philosophical days, as Zeno. Thus must Assiduous be understood, who also says, in 40 days the whole water is clear. Some in 4 months, 120 days, up to the second whitening, some in 1 day, understand this of distillation and imbibition. Finally raises, although we bid you grind for 3 days, a day or part of a day suffices, that is, by a week of 3 days, i.e., 3 weeks. Hence Bacchafius, you cannot reach success without a long-term and continuous regimen. And the senior, this medicine is not perfected except by a long preparation, in many days and nights. Thus it is clear the philosophers set different limits for this cooking, perhaps because of different places, in hot regions quicker than in cold, and with moist fire quicker than with dry. Constantinus says this work should be pursued continuously until it is evident to sight, that is, until the imitation of the work itself teaches you how to operate. For the water knoweth the battle of the fire, and the length of the cooking, as assiduous saith, or follow the saying of any other. Theophilus said that in 100 days the whole work is turned into earth, Bonellus, Arcanus, and Myretus will the same. And Aristeas saith the completion is in 80 days, the same saith Rosinus. Socrates in 150 days. Balgus and Azoratus say the work is cooked in 190 days, and the master of the work saith the same, saying that he perfected the whole work in 80 days. And in the allegories it is said it should be cooked in 40 days, and that within a week it becometh white. Likewise Antonius saith the decoction is done in 42 days. Elsewhere in the allegories, in 21 days. The same saith Morinus. Lucas saith it is attained in 7 days, and is white. Socrates saith, grind with reason, with salt, and with sea water, and rain for 21 days, and with brine for 10 days, and with sweet water for 10 days, and thou shalt find it. Mundus saith that it must be cooked for 40 days, and again for 40 days, this is 80 days of one name, or twice 9 months, so that in 9 months it is fixed. Pandulphus saith that in 7 days blackness appeareth. Rhasis, in the Book of Lights, giveth the term of burial as 21 days, as the promised solution. And note that in this art, day, is sometimes taken for a natural day, sometimes for a week, as Rhasis in the Book of Lights setteth the burial at 21 days, that is, 21 weeks. But the senior taketh it as natural days, saying in 150 days, which may perchance come to the same. Some call those 21 days and 3 weeks, as Khalid and Hermes in the 1st chapter, seashells, etc. And Rhasis, in 3 days, as to the perfect roasting, according to Morinus. And note, for fuller understanding, some sayings of the terms are to be understood only of the first work, some only of the second, some of the whole work, some of the first whiteness or blackness, some of the blackness and whiteness of the second work. As a diligent student of the authors may more fully and plainly see. Hence the variety of fire is prolonged or shortened. For in 100 days of one reckoning, and 80 weeks of another, many have finished the work. And all these things the nature of the matter cooked, and the fire, will teach thee. For, as it is said in the Book of Etymologies, ours with its own dart slayeth itself, and likewise wetteth itself, and layeth itself down, and coaguleth itself, and fixeth itself, and imbibeth and inseriteth itself, and the soul prepareth the body and the body the soul. But if most of the 70 philosophers hold place in this work concerning the proportion of mover to moved, then in half the time it may be prepared. For if one mover moveth some mobile in one work, then a mover twice as strong will move it in half the time, so long as both perfect equally, and the compound of the art flee not the fire. Yet beware of excess, for danger lieth therein. For, as Rhasis saith in the Book of Lights, and because a moderate fire effecteth equally as a greater, yet ever a slow fire is to be applied. And thus let it be ever spirited until it be turned into a fair form. Note also, marvel not at the ambiguity of days, for the philosophers did so by inspiration. Read Daniel, who saith, after 70 weeks Christ shall be born, and after 60 weeks Christ shall be slain, etc. Daniel also saith, after 14 weeks shall come the son of iniquity, and elsewhere saith, 14 days. In the last chapter of this treatise I shall declare a certain question, whose difficulty hath a flowery exposition, and will give light for the understanding of the philosophers' secrets in their books. The question therefore is asked, whether the whole watery tincture be coagulated in the body, or only the tincture existing in the water. Which is not proved, first, by the saying of Gratian, in 6 it mocketh zur save by the benefit of a daily heat equally and continually enduring, just as the mineral diffuseth itself into the hardest stones, and afterward separateth from them. Therefore it seemeth likewise that the tincture of the art diffuseth itself in its water, and afterward separateth from it. This same seemeth to be said by Rhasis in the Book of Lights, saying, there are 4 natures which constitute the philosophical man, 3 of them, namely earthy gums, infect the ruddy subject, yet add no weight, only whiteness, but they assign redness, while silver alone is wondrously transformed into redness. The same by the authority of the senior, who saith, the spirit is the place of the soul, and is the water which draweth this soul from its bodies, and the soul is the tincture dissolved in the water, and is born in it, as the dyer's tincture is born in water, wherein they dye cloth. The tincture spreadeth in the cloth, then the water passeth away by drying, and the tincture remaineth in the cloth. So the philosopher's water, wherein the tincture is born, is brought back upon its blessed earth, and they have likened it, and called the water the soul, which Hermes calleth gold, saying, sow gold in the foliated white earth. And this earth tingeth, then the spiritual water departeth, and the soul remaineth, which is the tincture in the body, wherein it manifesteth its beauty. All this the senior saith. To this question it is to be answered, the water with the tincture is coagulated, this I have seen by experience. Wherefore called son of Isidus, since I have seen the water coagulate itself, then I am ratified that the thing assigned is true. And elsewhere he saith, for it is a stone, not a stone, for in it is the ferment, without which the mass of water would not coagulate. And the senior saith, their water is gold, and it is the ferment of bodies, to which they bring them back. And from this stone is drawn the gold which endureth poverty, and after God thou hast no other medicine. Of which Khalid said, neither the absent nor the present can dye gold save with gold, and this gold, their stone that dieth, springeth forth from itself. And of this gold, which is the flowers that are made by air sublimed, all their intent is set. Hence it was not called stone, not a stone, except because it is a water congealable into stone. And in a certain book Khalid son of Isidus saith, there are 4 signs showing the art. 1. The joining of dryness and moisture, and the appearance of blackness, for thou must join the moist with the dry, and the hot with the cold. 2. The ointment appearing in the beginning of the work, its liquefaction, when it is over the fire, and when the coldness of air cometh to it, it coagulates, then in the fire it melts again as ointment. And it is a poison that killeth, which, being dissolved, becometh powerful and odorous, remaining black in the lower part of the instrument, and becometh water, then they call it spirit and quicksilver, which hath many names. 3. The third sign is that it is of less water after preparation, just as milk, namely, virgin's milk, when curdled, is lighter in weight, being separated from the whey. To this third sign Pythagoras in the Teba giveth a likeness, take Athelia, and like milk, for bodies are to it as the curd of milk. And again he saith, place it in its vessel and coagulate until it be powder, and cook it with the spittle of the moon, and coagulate and guide, and thou shalt find the stone broken and imbued with water. This is the stone which we name with every name, which receiveth the work and drinketh itself, and it is the stone from which proceed all colors. 4. The fourth sign is that it thickeneth its own nature. This, then, is the way of preparation. The foundation of this work is patience, gentleness, delay, and the fitness of instruments to assist therein. Lo, in these 4 signs its coagulation with tincture is made plain. Wherefore Khalid the son of Isidus saith, the wise of this art declared that there be many things which aid the work, though not immediately, yet they are of the progeny of its kind. And he addeth, the male and the female, and the 4 natures, are one, for the one is generated of the other, from its caverns and from its stock, therefore they are one, and unto one they return. Thus the fire prevaileth not betwixt the tincture and the water, but rather the virgin's milk, that is, mercury, is coagulated, that it itself may be coagulate. To the second reasoning it must be answered, that it proceedeth from a false understanding. Wherefore it hath a threefold exposition. First exposition. The four elements of the stone are most duly proportioned, constituting the philosophical man, that is, the perfect human elixir, for it driveth away many infirmities and defects from man. And the stone is called man, because without human reason and science none attaineth unto it. Hence in the allegories, take man. And assiduous, blessed is he that tendeth unto this stone, and giveth thanks to God, for he hath need of no work of kinsman or stranger. And Morienus, this is the science that most of all ought to be sought among the rest, for by it may we reach unto another more marvelous, that is, medicine. The philosophers, using this stone, lived 160 years in their time. For, as it is said in the etymologies of the philosophers, in this all the wise agreed, that when our stone, called Haemodes, is reddened, then is it complete, and worketh divers operations, not only in solid bodies but also in the human, in precious stones and gems. And there is no thing more marvelous in the world than it is, in all its workings. It healeth not only metals, but preserveth also human bodies from their infirmities. And it is further said there, take the hematite stone, and give it to drink with water to the paralytic, the dropsical, the frenzied, and all leprous, and chiefest infirmities, both inward and outward. Whatever evil spots be in the body, it blotteth them out, and it availeth for the sight without doubt. And whoso useth it daily shall be merry as it were, and it maketh the countenance bright to all that use it. It driveth away melancholy, and all ill humours indifferently from the body. And what marvel? Doth not gold itself cure many sicknesses? If thou make gold nobler than gold, spiritual and attenuate with the attenuation of spirits, it cureth solid bodies and human alike. For it is the theriac of the philosophers, as their allegories declare. Thus then the four natures of the stone constitute the philosophical man, three natures, that is, earth and water, are three, namely, two quicksilvers with their sulfur, the fourth nature is the water of the stone, to wit the viscous gold, called the ruddy gum, wherein those three earthy natures are signed, that is, dyed and wedded in perpetual tincture. For this water accomplisheth all, by it earth is dissolved, coagulated, calcined, and incinerated, and by it all volatile things are retained. Three natures, therefore, are signed in the ruddy gum, that is, the golden over water, which is water simple in essence. Moses likewise in the Tubba-seth of the first work, cook it with a gentle fire until white appear, then quench it, and ye shall behold the one, that is, the water of life, divided from three, namely, from the body in which are three natures, two males, Sol and coagulated Mercury, and Luna. These in the earth are signed with the ruddy gum laid over them. Yet no weight, that is, of metalline humidity, is added, save that which was in the white and in the living red water, and in our air reddening. For our brass, though dead, is red by nature, outwardly white, yet inwardly ruddy. Add only quicksilver, that is, the metalline substance of argent vive, and forthwith into redness, that is, the golden tincture, it is wondrously transformed. For, as Khalid saith, after preparation it is of less water, like unto milk, as though he would say, the water addeth no more weight to the body than the metalline humidity which it already hath. For though the watery moisture passeth away, the metalline remaineth, while only quicksilver is wondrously transformed into redness. Hence in Madian it is said, Azoth cannot substantially take away from latent its heat, save in appearance, but latent taketh away from Azoth its whiteness, and ruleth over it, and maketh it ruddy, for latent hath a natural power that surpasseth all colors. Therefore I said well, so long as quicksilver alone is wondrously transformed into redness. For the color of latent endureth, and whatsoever thou sowest in mercury, that shalt thou reap from it. Whence Gratian saith, all metal is in mercury, therefore whatsoever thou sowest therein, the same shalt thou reap, for it hath a fixed incorruptible seed, that is, incorruptible metalline humidity, since either it wholly departeth unburnt from the fire, or it wholly abideth in it, as Geber declareth. And it hath in itself an aqueous moisture superabundant, with which the fixed part passeth. Another gloss. The three natures of the gum are signed in the ruddy, yet no weight is added, save what was in the white, that is, in the virgin's milk. For its mother is a virgin, and its father never lay with her, as assiduous saith. And Hermes, its father is the sun, its mother the moon, and sea. Therefore well is it called the virgin's milk, and it addeth to the red and to the sun. For the sun is not increased, rather, it is corrupted into better. Increase is an addition to a pre-existing quantity, but the sun is made ozema, a ferment corrupt. For the definition of death is, the soul's separation from the body, and the soul's joining to the world body. And this befalleth when the ruddy gum transformeth only silver, the white argent earth, because silver is wondrously changed into redness, into its proper color. Thus the sun is not augmented, but being corrupted, our living moon is wondrously transformed by the strength of our vinegar into solar tincture. Wherefore Morienus, fools err in all other things, for never shall they attain this purpose, until Sol and Luna be joined into one body, and unless the Most High God will it, never shall it be. For it is the gift of God and the secret of the Most High. Now this conjunction of sun and moon is not made save after their corruption. Wherefore in the allegories, both must be slain with their own sword, withholding from themselves their enduring souls, until the most hidden inward soul be extinguished. For from man proceedeth nothing but man, nor from beasts but their like. Even so there shall be no way to redness and whiteness, save if thou join argent vive, suffering fire, unto Sol and Luna, nor otherwise canst thou draw forth the soul that pierceth and tincteth, save in the womb of the body wherein it is hidden. Therefore no body remaineth incorrupt among bodies. Therefore let there be no increase therein, but the kinds of perpetual tincture, for the corruption of one is the generation of another, according to the philosophers. Yet this saying doth not wholly exclude the coagulation of quicksilver. For Rosen saith, and I was mindful of the coagulation of the body, which is called the fiery body, and cambar, and argent vive, and the red sulphur. By these names they named the soul going forth from the body itself. It may also be otherwise expounded, namely, that the tincture addeth not weight in tinging, save only that silver is wondrously converted into gold. Thus the metal-line humidity with the water is joined, the metal-line body, that is, the solar fatness and lunar humor, is coagulated, that is, fixed. Whence asobirs in the tubba, in the urine of children and clean abiding water, cook it with a slow fire, before it tincteth, until all blackness depart from it, and thereafter it shall easily be confirmed. If it departed like the water of our dyers, they would not call it perpetual or abiding water, nor say that it is easily confirmed, that is, coagulated. For this quicksilver is the perfection of the thing, and therefore it passeth not away, as Geber witnesseth. The true consideration of the thing that perfecteth is the consideration of the pure election of the substance of quicksilver, which is the matter that from that matter hath taken its origin, and is created thereof. Yet this matter is not quicksilver in its own nature, nor in the whole of its substance, but was part thereof. Nor is it now as our stone is made, but part of it. For it enlighteneth, preserveth by abstinence, and signifieth perfection. Let Almighty God be praised, who createth the most precious out of the most vile, even our stone, whereof this work is made, having in itself all colors. For it is white, red, ruddy, citron, more citron, heavenly, and deep green. In this stone are the four elements, it is watery, airy, fiery, and earthy. In its hidden part are heat and dryness, in its manifest part cold and moisture. It is oil, and this is dry, and that dryness tincteth alchemically, for dryness tincteth and not another. But watery and adustive humidity corrupteth this work, and tincteth into blackness. These infirmities therefore must be destroyed by the degrees of fire, of which it is better to judge thus, that after its coagulation it be held in such a degree of fire that it cannot flee, until it can endure a greater degree of fire, and again be held therein for days, so long as it flee not, until it may endure a threefold greater fire. And thus by hand it is led from degree to degree, until it suffer perfect ignition in the body and flee not the fire. And in the last 3 degrees a stone vessel not porous is expedient, bearing the fire, as was said at the end of the first book. Nor do I believe this can be wrought in glass, with ashes intervening, by the philosophical fire, which cannot work its actions in the degrees of fire through so many means removing the medicine's fixation, as through potsherd and ashes, unless it hang looted upon the wheel over equal fire in its degrees. Wherefore Gratianus, in the first degree metallic vessels are expedient, namely in the first work. In the second degree glass vessels, for coagulation and for the whitening of earth, until the whole virtue of the water be incinerated. In the third degree potsherd vessels are expedient, for its plenary fixation, and c. Amen. Here in death the study of the counsel of the marriage of the sun and the moon, the art completed, and c.